prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important trusts in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interest you have committed to their charge.
Amen. Item number 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honourable members, I welcome you to this afternoon sitting, and I would like to amend the order paper by deferring item 3.2. The ministry is not yet ready. I also want to defer item, I think item 7. Okay, on item 7, I think we shall consider it on Thursday. Now, Right Honourable Prime Minister and the honourable members, Uganda has been participating in the climate change meetings. Last year, a delegation went to COP21, but no report has ever been brought to this House. Last month, another delegation went to COP22 in Marrakesh to deal with issues of climate change. Again, no report has come. However, I'm concerned that the government has sent out teams to our constituencies to talk to people about climate change in our absence. I think it's standard practice that if delegations, if ministers are going to our constituencies, we should be informed. But they're busy running around. We don't know what they're saying about us. So I would want to know from the government, what role do you expect us to play in the issue of climate change? We, the MPs, because we have been excluded. So we shall want an explanation about that, Honourable Prime Minister. Now, in the public gallery, we have students of St. Mugaga Senior Secondary School, Mpigi, represented by Honourable John Bosco Biai and Honourable Sarah Nakaunde. I don't know where they are. Where are you? Can you stand up? Here they are, the young people. Welcome. Welcome to Parliament. Then we also have 29 district councillors from Lamu, led by the district speaker, Jimmy Amone. Where are they? Is that you? Please stand up. Represented by Honourable Onek Hilary and Honourable Modi Lanyero. Welcome. They're here to attend our proceedings. Then on tomorrow, I had given you notice that Professor David Sali is coming here to talk to members about health and wellness through nutrition, dermatology, and herbal science medicine, tomorrow at 11 in the members' lounge. Then I also want to inform the honourable members that tomorrow evening at the Imperial Royal Hotel, the Busoga Tourism Initiative is launching a book on Busoga. It will be after the session, so please, when we finish here, you can go to Imperial Royal and look at the book and buy it. It's called The Best of Busoga. Thank you so much. Honourable Mkitale.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on 5th October, I raised as a matter of national importance, first of all, thanking government for finally succeeding to give license, the development and production license to oil and gas companies after 3 years, and also new exploration areas. But I did make a plea and request government to lay on table the development plan, the oil and gas, those licenses, copies as required by the law we made. We requested that government gives us a comprehensive update on what's going to happen and in the areas of the refinery where Russians come and go, the Total new pipeline going to Tanzania, how we are going to engage local community, more so on land acquisition, and it was promised that a comprehensive report will be brought to the floor of Parliament after 2 weeks. It is now 2 months, and we are going for Christmas recess. We haven't got that update, and yet for us on ground, we see oil companies now coming back without even being assured that the 48% local content we provided in the law is going to be taken care of. Can I, Madam Speaker, through you, request the Minister as a matter of urgency to give us a report before we go for Christmas recess and assure this country that the country will benefit from the oil and gas.
Thank you. Honorable Lawrence Akugiziwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I raise on a matter of national importance about a disease outbreak that is affecting eucalyptus plantations in Kienjojo, Kiegegwa, and Kabarole. And most of our plantations are drying up because of a certain disease which we don't know. My prayer is going to the Ministry of Environment and NFA to go there and investigate. Then they give us a solution because our people are losing out because the plantations are drying up in large numbers. I thank you.
Thank you. Minister of Energy, do you have anything to say concerning the issues raised by Honorable Mukitale?
Right Honorable Speaker, we are still preparing the report, so it's not here today. So the responses will be given, it's a comprehensive statement.
2 months, Honourable Minister.
Right Honorable, we have not specified the date, but we shall bring to this Honorable House
No.
our statement.
Honourable Minister, I want that statement on Thursday. I think 2 months are long enough. Bring it on Thursday.
Much obliged.
Okay. Minister for Environment. Minister for Environment on the eucalyptus disease or agriculture. I don't know who can. Yes, Honourable Churi.
Madam Speaker.
Maybe he knows how to handle.
Speaker.
Order, please sit down. Please take your seats.
I promise to cause the Ministry for Environment to deliver this report as quickly as possible, probably next Thursday, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Sabagala.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue you have raised about ministers going to our constituencies, launching various programs without our knowledge is of great concern, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as you have said, it is our practice that whenever a minister is going to visit or to launch any program in our constituencies, we must be informed. Madam Speaker, it is becoming a culture that ministers move out, carry out programs in various constituencies without the knowledge of members of Parliament. I think, Madam Speaker, as you have directed, the Prime Minister should put it in writing and you are given copies that whenever there are programs that are going to be carried out in constituencies, members of Parliament should be in the know and should be invited.
Okay. there were some other matters which were brought, but I did not think they qualified for this particular issue. So I'll ask Honorable Otieno, write to the Minister of Local Government about your issue. Honorable Babala, give me the names, we shall write to the police. The other one, we shall handle later in the week. So, Honorable Burundo, this matter, your matter does not qualify, it borders on no diplomatic conflict, so I will not allow it to be brought to this floor. Okay, honorable members, the Ministry of Gender and Social Development has organized a meeting on grid jobs on Thursday, 8th December at the Imperial Hotel. I would encourage members to attend. It's going to discuss the Songhai model, which I've personally seen. I went to Benin and I saw what they are doing, and also sent a few members of parliament. So I would encourage members really to come on Thursday morning so that we are given information about that. It's very, very impressive for our growth. Thank you. So item, yes, Prime Minister, yes.
Madam Speaker, I want to explain the concern that has been raised by you and the other members that ministers have gone around the country without informing the members of parliament about climate change. First of all, I must say this is a very bad omission that members of parliament are not informed. But it was not a secret move. We are concerned as a government that there is a big problems and the country is going to be in famine because of poor rain. And the government had formed a committee on climate change of cabinet and briefed by the director of Department of Climate Department. So it was decided in cabinet that a country must be informed. Already the disaster has told us what area are facing serious problems. So that action was taken as an emergency so that the country is not taken unaware that there is a problem coming and the problem is because of climate change, of which we have no control. Therefore, it was a bit an urgent matter. That's why the team has gone round, and I want to apologize on behalf of the government if the colleagues felt they are left out, but it will not happen in future. However, we are trying to save, they say, stitch in time saves 9. This is what we are trying to do on behalf, even on members of parliament. Because even if you are informed, I think the best you could have done is to join the team. And if now that you are not informed, and we are sorry you cannot do it again, you could do, I'm sure, thank the team to save, yes, to save the situation. Otherwise there was nothing sinister, madam, for that.
Madam Speaker. Order.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable. Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, part of the activities which government is not inviting us as members of parliament has implications to do with the money. And as MPs, we have an oversight role. Just recently, in my constituency, the President, along with the Minister of Kampala, gave out about 100 million shillings. I was surprised just reading newspapers after the function was performed. in my constituency, even almost near to where I reside. I don't know as MP to which accounting officer I have to go and find out whether that money is put to proper use. When I was listening to Right Honorable Prime Minister, he's only talking of famine, and I'm sure it was not solving famine in my constituency, but it was done hurriedly. My point of order, therefore, is it in any minimum order for the Prime Minister to come and say that some activities which government perform, they are doing them very fast, that MPs, in order, if they could invite MPs, they would be delayed. Is he in order to mislead this August House like that? Thank you very much.
I don't know about the details of those other programs. However, Prime Minister, I think what we want is to give them a script that they're going to speak about, not to talk about members of parliament. Some of those who have gone there have been talking about the members of those constituencies in their absence. Demobilizing. Please tell them to concentrate on the climate change, not talk about the members of parliament.
Madam,
yes. They are demobilizing our voters.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Honorable.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The information I would like to give to the House is that while they do not want to involve us, saying that we will delay the exercise, they use our opponents while they are distributing these materials. And so certainly they are busy decampaigning members of parliament on the ground.
So, Prime Minister, there's no harm in sending out the information to all of us. Yes.
Further information.
Madam
Honorable
Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity, I will still supplement that though they have their key information to be passed, we also form part of the government, and we are people's representatives. It will be prudent for us to work as a team. If it is about hunger, Right Honorable Speaker, we have been raising these issues here. If it's about climate change, we have participated highly. Therefore, it is not prudent for them to go in isolation without informing us. It will be even us as members of parliament to mobilize our people. Therefore, I think government should take this one serious. Cabinet cannot work without us. We must work as a team.
And when they leave, we shall be the ones to do the follow-up. We should be the ones to do the following. No, let's go to next item. Let's go to next item.
Item number 3 on the order paper. Statement by Minister on the election for local council and councillors for workers.
Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice. Okay, go to item 4. Yes, Honorable Sochikubu.
Right Honorable Speaker, whereas I wouldn't have a problem going to the next item, we receive these items on the order paper and we prepare for the session and the sitting of the House. Right Honorable Speaker, when a matter is listed, most importantly, a matter to do with election for local council and councillors for workers, it is very, very pertinent that the responsible minister is here to tell the country, because the districts are not fully constituted on the position of councillors at the district level. We are soon going for a Christmas recess, Right Honorable Speaker. Such a matter is of great public importance that it can't be wished away like that. May we demand from government, why they consult the office of the Speaker and items are listed, and at the 11th hour they are being abandoned without any regret, without any remorse, and they are just looking on. Right, Honourable Speaker. Is it allowed that such an important and critical item is skipped when government is fully represented and there is no response from them?
Prime Minister, I received a text of a statement, so I fully expected the Minister to be here.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, as I always say, indeed I'm sorry for these things, but we really don't know all of a sudden that has happened to the Minister of Justice. We don't know what happened. And as of now, I cannot say, Madam, that this is happening, and I must tell lies to the colleagues. I'm not an angel. I can't know what I don't know. Therefore, Madam, I appreciate your decision to go for the next item. I think that's the only solution we come.
Procedure.
Otherwise, I don't know what I can do now.
Procedure, Madam Speaker.
We cannot either ask the House to adjourn because this minister is not here. No. So I beg we go forward.
Procedure, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Magezi.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Right Honourable
Honourable
Speaker.
Let's hear from the Chair of the committee.
Madam Speaker, yes, we could go forward, but this matter, as Honourable Sechkubu has pointed out, is a matter on which the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Leader of Government Business, and the Minister of Constitutional Affairs have confirmed and told the country that we shall have LOC elections not later than January. Honourable members, you've been here. It's good that this matter comes up even when we have LOCs in our midst here. Madam Speaker, we are talking of unconstitutionality. Article 61(2) gives a time frame for these elections. So what we have done as a committee is to engage the ministries and the government departments. And there were two key problems. One was money. The Electoral Commission had wanted 30-something billion. We sat with the Minister of Finance and them, and good enough, the Minister of Finance assured us that the money would be provided, about 13 billion. The remaining item, Madam Speaker, was that of the Electoral Commission, because the Electoral Commission mandate was to expire around 17th of November. This one, I'm sure, is being handled by the Appointments Committee. But also, we have the assurance of the Attorney General in writing that even if the Electoral Commission mandate expired, the Commission and the technical officers are there doing the technical work. What we now require as Parliament is a proposal for amendments that are consequential to the methodology of lining up. We agreed to change the modality to lining up, but this has consequences on the registers of voters, on the nomination of candidates, and so on. And according to the Attorney General, that required amendment of certain provisions of the Local Governments Act. We are proceeding to a recess for our Christmas, unless the minister is actually directed to present the amendments of the Local Governments Act. And I'm assured, and I've been informed, Madam Speaker, that they're actually ready. You should come, present them so that the committee can handle them during the recess. And the Electoral Commission assured us everything is set to have these elections in January. So this kind of, delay and the absence and so on, through you, Madam Speaker, I would require that you direct the Prime Minister to direct the Minister of Constitutional Affairs to present the bill for amendments of the Local Governments Act before we proceed on recess. I think.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the same issue.
Information to the House is that the Minister has been sent on special assignment, and he will be ready tomorrow with a statement. That is the latest statement, information I received, Madam. The Minister will be here tomorrow with the information required.
Madam Speaker.
No, am I?
Madam Speaker, the President addressed this country and told the country that he had nominated or appointed 87 ministers to help him run the government and deliver this country to the middle income status. Madam Speaker, we know that there are more than 3 ministers in each ministry. But every time an important issue comes on the floor of Parliament, the ministers are not there to answer the questions. Even on the issue of hunger, Madam, hunger is all over the country. And we see the government now coming up at the last moment when people are already starving. But the hunger would have not been there if this government had bought food and put in silos. We see our neighbors coming to buy food and taking and keeping it in the silos.
Honourable Member, we are talking about LC1 elections. Don't divert the issue.
Yes.
So, Honourable Prime Minister, you know this issue of the LC1 election is very, very grave. There is no a government in those villages. And we were told that January, we are going to have elections of LC1. So how can we can't treat it casually under Prime Minister, Minister for Local Government. We can't treat this casually.
Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, we stand by what we said. We are on course. Come January, we shall have elections for LOCs.
Procedure, Madam Speaker. Procedure.
Honorable Ronald.
Madam Speaker, colleagues are talking about the money. We now have the money. Electoral Commission is being handled by the Appointments Committee. The law as a ministry, we have an option of coming up with regulations. Yes, I'm being honest, and we shall stand with our promise.
No, but Honourable Minister, you know, Parliament will be going on recess. So if you are going to bring your regulations or whatever amendments, you factor it into our program. You may arrive here and the people are in Chibuku eating meat. Yes, Kajina.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to assure this August House that the government is not interested in LOC1 elections. Even in the 9th Parliament, we raised this issue. 16 years on the road, have not had election, LOC1 election. We have been engaging ministers, because I'm a member of Public Service and Local Government Committee. We have been engaging the ministers. So, Madam Speaker, what we are interested in as the August House, let the government set the date.
What's the order?
Let the government set the date. We are talking of January, but which date?
Point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is it on order for an honorable member, when the minister has already talked about it, that in January, the government will be able to run elections? January 2017 isn't in order, therefore. Yes. Is he in order? Is the honorable member in order to say that the government is not interested in handling LOC1 elections? Is he in order?
That is his perception. That's his perception. Now, honourable members, join me in welcoming a team from the National Assembly of Kenya, the administrative assistants, Doreen Chepkirui, is that your team? Honourable Mrs. Lina Kimuge, Maimuna Kawasi, Lydia Mwangi, Maureen Atamba, Marian Haj. Welcome to our National Assembly. So, and as you have said, Prime Minister, let's have this tomorrow, because we need to know, we need to be, to see whether it involves budget, it involves what, so many things. But I want to inform the House and the country that the Appointments Committee has completed vetting. of the Electoral Commission. I think what remains is they are being sworn in. For me, we've done our part on this side. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank you for the directive. However, I would want you to direct further the Ministry of Local Government in particular to come up with the bills, if any, and the regulations, if any, because the best of my recollection, when we amended the law, we did not give the ministry any delegated authority to make regulations pursuant to the amendment. But if we did, then it's my prayer, Right Honourable Speaker, that you direct the Minister of Local Government to lay on the table the regulations for us to be able to prepare our people for the elections. Otherwise, we may be in a hula barrel and continue meandering when people are not serious and committed to the cause of democracy and justice in this country. I so pray.
Minister of Local Government, please demonstrate that you're preparing for these elections. You must demonstrate to this House and the country that you're actually preparing, not just talking. Yes. Okay. Honour members, next item.
Further procedure.
Chairperson, Foreign Affairs Committee.
Procedure.
Chairperson, Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, and honorable members, I'm presenting a report for the Committee of Foreign Affairs on the conduct. I'm presenting a report on the Committee of Foreign Affairs on the oversight visits to the selected Uganda missions abroad during the period of November 2016 to appraise and assess the following. Madam Speaker, the volume of the report was so big that I could not have it here to read, but I'll lay it on table after my summary. But it's uploaded on the iPads. So the committee assessed the following: the extent of the implementation of the mission charters, the management of fixed assets at the respective missions, C, the working relationship amongst staff and the staffing levels, stroke welfare versus the mandate of the missions. D, the relationship of the missions with key MDAs in Uganda in a bid to promote commercial diplomacy. E, the delivery of consular services. And lastly, the situation of Ugandans in diaspora, their achievements and challenges. The committee's findings highlighted herein will go a long way in informing the impending consideration of the National Budget Framework paper and other policy decisions by the House. The extent of implementation of the mission charters and the relationship of the missions with key MDAs in Uganda in a bid to promote commercial diplomacy. In the attainment of their mandate, Uganda missions abroad are guided by the mission charters. These charters are largely derived from Ministry of Foreign Affairs Strategic Investment Plan 2 and are geared towards attainment of Sustainable Development Goals, the National Development Plan 2, and the Vision 2040. The aggregated thrust of the various charters in the missions visited is on the promotion of Uganda as a favorable trade, tourism, education, and investment hub. For the focus on regional integration, peace, and security. But achieving all this is extremely difficult with the meager resources that are available to the embassies or missions. However, some work is done. For example, the Nairobi mission with its baby consulate of Mombasa have facilitated trade in the northern corridor by significantly reducing the travel time of trucks from Mombasa to Kampala, in the reduction of roadblocks from 123 to only 7. It's noteworthy that despite the fact that Uganda continues to receive numerous students seeking education opportunities, the persistent strikes in some public education institutions, such as Makerere University, are beginning to scare away prospective students from foreign countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, and so on. Likewise, Ugandan students on Islamic scholarships in foreign countries are not given enough details of requirements, which makes them get stranded when they reach those countries, for example, those in Egypt and Sudan. The management of fixed assets at the respective missions. The management of fixed assets at the missions largely revolves around buildings. It is worthy to note that while some missions such as Nairobi, Kigali, Addis Ababa, and Cairo have their own buildings, others like Khartoum and Abuja rent office buildings that they occupy. Besides, all missions rent accommodation for the foreign service officers. The committee noted the deplorable state of some mission buildings, such as the official residence in Cairo. The rate of infrastructural decay is worrying and requires urgent budgetary enhancements and appropriate comprehensive property management structures to cover all missions abroad. I put a chart which shows the status of the buildings at the various missions by government, owned by government of Uganda. Nairobi, we have a chancery which was renovated.
The members can read.
Sorry?
They can read. This
Okay,
one they can
okay.
read. Just move to the next one.
Now I wanted to mention that in Mombasa we have property, Uganda property under Uganda Property Holdings Limited. They have 5 residential houses, 2 office blocks, 2 commercial buildings, 1 carport, and 12 warehouses. I have a reason why I'm mentioning this one. Cairo, you'll find these things in the report, but there are also vacant plots of land. The land acquired from the Nigerian government of 2.5 acres may be repossessed any time for failure by government of Uganda to develop it. In Addis Ababa, a 2.5 acre piece of land fully paid for by the government of Uganda has been encroached on by a private developer who has fenced it off. There is concern, this is in relation to the Uganda Property Holdings Limited properties which they are looking after. There is concern that the revenue accruing to the various properties held by UPHL, I hope you understand, it is Uganda Property Holdings Limited, in Mombasa and London. Let me repeat this one. There is concern that the revenue accruing to the various properties held by UPHL in Mombasa and London is significantly low. The committee was informed by the management of UPHL in Mombasa that in the financial year 2015-2016, only Uganda shillings 6.7 billion was generated from the 22 properties, plus 2 from London. of which 4.3 out of the 6.7, 4.3 billion was spent on operational costs, and a further 2.2 billion for reinvestment, leaving Uganda shillings 150 million only as a net profit to be shared by the shareholders. And yet a single building in Nairobi, the Uganda House, in its dilapidated form, fetched Uganda shillings 1.06 billion in remittances to the Consolidated Fund for the year 2015-2016. The government of Uganda is therefore getting a raw deal from UPHL. Staffing levels, welfare, working relationship. Of the 6 missions visited by the committee, 3, that is Khartoum, Abuja, and Cairo, did not have substantive heads of mission. The host countries may view this as lack of commitment to diplomatic relations from the government of Uganda. Secondly, coupled with other existing serious staffing gaps, which may impede the realization of the mission charters. The committee noted that for the missions visited, a cordial working relationship was reported amongst the staff and between the staff and the mission heads. While this is commendable, it should be noted that there remains reports of friction between some politically appointed mission heads and some staff in the missions, largely premised on working methods. Delivery of consular services. The delivery of consular services is one of the integral functions of the Uganda missions abroad. This entails the processing of visa applications for nationals of other countries wishing to visit Uganda, facilitation of the registration of births and deaths of Ugandans, establishing and registering Ugandans with a specific missions within a specific missions jurisdiction, and rescuing distressed Ugandans. Through the provision of the consular services and within the limits of the international law, Uganda missions abroad protect the interests of Uganda and its nationals within their jurisdiction. In a bid to provide consular services, some missions, such as Nairobi, Rwanda, Addis Ababa, and Cairo, have created a database. They have created databases for Ugandan nationals that have reported to the missions. However, there were still many Ugandan nationals who do not report to missions and only seek help from the missions after landing into problems. The committee notes that this is crucial, especially with the rampant cases of human trafficking. The need to market Uganda as a favorable tourism and trade destinations and the pursuit of markets for Ugandan products. The situation of Ugandans in diaspora, their achievements and challenges. The committee notes that increased people movement across the world has aided the mobility of Ugandans in pursuit of opportunities in various parts of the world. Today, the diaspora plays a significant role in contributing to the country's GDP through direct foreign exchange and knowledge and skills transfer. Coupled with the externalization of labor and its attendant challenges of human trafficking, the poor working conditions in some countries, Uganda missions abroad have found themselves grappling with the management of affairs related to Ugandans in diaspora. Many of these distressed Ugandans rush to the embassies seeking help, and yet the missions don't have the resources to help them. In the 2015-16 alone, authorities intercepted 100 Ugandan girls at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on their way to the Arab countries. And another batch of over 34 girls were intercepted in Kigali. In Cairo, over 35 Ugandan girls were intercepted having gone through Dar es Salaam. But earlier on, about 60 girls had gone through Cairo International Airport without being noticed. In some countries such as Rwanda, Kenya, and Egypt, Ugandans living in those countries have formed associations for the ease of engagement with the missions and host authorities. However, though they would expect the East African community hospitality and brotherliness, the reverse is what they have experienced. They are harassed at the border points and the renewal of their work permits delayed. In Sudan, Ugandans working with international organizations are denied renewal of work permits and visas, even if they still have running contracts with those international organizations. There are Ugandans who have stayed long in Sudan but are not allowed to leave Sudan unless they pay large sums of money in taxes. There is even general harassment of Ugandans, which even affected Ugandan members of the Committee of Foreign Affairs recently at the airport of Khartoum. Nevertheless, Ugandans in Rwanda informed the committee that they were making good money in selling food from Uganda, clothes, and some had restaurants. Recommendations. From the foregoing observations, the committee recommends that on the implementation of the mission charters, the missions should periodically review their mission charters to monitor and evaluate the extent of achieving and progressively modify their targets in line with the Uganda's development objectives and the realities in the host countries. On the basis of the reports of the periodic reviews of the status of the mission charter, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should prioritize resource allocations to missions abroad, bearing in mind that these missions are the face of Uganda, instead of causing lamentations every time. My prayer to members of Parliament on appropriating resources to critically look at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that we improve the country's image. And honorable members, we have the powers to appropriate funds, especially in the coming financial year, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs so that we can help the missions. On the relationship of the missions with key MDAs in Uganda, in a bid to promote commercial diplomacy, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities should consider posting and facilitating attaches to the respective missions. On the missions that continue to incur expenditure on rent, government should allocate resources to acquire property and or develop vacant pieces of land in those different mission areas. This will save the country from continuous expenditure on rent and potentially generate NTR from letting out space. We should also explore the issue of mortgage to avert high cost of rent at the missions and embassies. Number 4, on the UPHL, the committee recommends that government considers improving the staffing and operational capacities of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and transfer the custodianship of properties currently under UPHL to the Ugandan missions in the respective countries. Parliament should also investigate the management of UPHL in relation to the management of the assets and the revenue collection. On staffing gaps, MOFA, Minister of Foreign Affairs, should conduct a human resource audit of all missions and engage the Ministry of Public Service and that of Finance, Planning and Economic Development in a phased manner to filling the existing gaps. And also government should look into appointing and posting substantive heads of mission in Abuja, Cairo, and Sudan. Given that the Sudanese government has 7 defense attaches in Uganda, Uganda should consider reciprocating with an attaché to serve security interests of Uganda. On the motivation of foreign service officers, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should consider enhancing the foreign service allowances and education allowance for their children due to the harsh economic realities. On improving the plight of Ugandans in diaspora, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should develop a comprehensive diaspora policy to streamline the role and operations of the missions abroad in managing affairs of Ugandans in the diaspora. And the Minister of Finance should also help in facilitating the missions to help the distressed Ugandans. On improving the provision of consular services, all missions should endeavor in establishing databases of Ugandans living in their jurisdictions. Minister of Foreign Affairs should allocate resources for our awareness creation through the mass media in Uganda to Ugandans on the need to register with Ugandan missions in foreign countries whenever they travel out of the country. This will enable them to get acquainted with the services provided by the embassies and missions. 10. In combating human trafficking, the Ministry of Internal Affairs has to aggressively address the loopholes in immigration management, such as issuance of passports, border surveillance, interagency coordination with the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and other security agencies. Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development should streamline the entire process of externalization of labor, including tasking licensed labor export companies to avail to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs the details of the destinations and addresses to which the Ugandan workers are exported. This will ease follow-up by the Uganda embassies and missions. On the harassment of the Ugandan traders at the borders and the delays in issuance of renewal of work permits, the Ministry of East African Community should intervene to eliminate these barriers of integration. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs should engage with their counterparts in Sudan on the issue of harassment and refusal of the renewal of visas and work permits of Ugandans working in international organizations. The committee was informed that the Sudanese authorities were alleging that the Uganda government was also denying the renewal of work permits of the Sudanese. But we carried out investigations and we found out that these were lies because immigration officers in Uganda informed us that they have never denied any Sudanese a work permit or even its renewal. The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should sustain the $10,000 for the commemoration of Uganda's Independence Day in the various missions, given that this is the only avenue for awareness creation about Uganda's tourism, education, investment, and trade opportunities. The committee is optimistic that the outcome of this report will be a general improvement in budgetary allocations, staffing, management systems, and support supervision in all Uganda missions abroad. This will go a long way in enhancing their efficiency and effectiveness. I beg to move, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
I beg to lay a full report of the Committee of the Foreign Affairs on missions and embassies. Oh, and missions, sorry. I beg to lay its annexes at the minutes of the meetings of the committee where they derived the report that I've just read. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and the members of the committee. Now, Honourable members, I have some difficulty. I understand the minister who was assigned to come to attend on behalf of the Foreign Office had an eye operation and he cannot come today. So I don't know whether anyone is standing in for him for purposes of the debate. Honourable Muruli, I understand you are acting group this afternoon.
Yes, I am. But, Right Honourable Speaker, we cannot anticipate the direction the debate will take, Right Honourable Speaker, and I'm just thinking along your thinking.
Speaker. Yes, Right Honourable Speaker. I can understand the dilemma that this Parliament is faced with, but you might recall, Honourable Speaker and members, that last week a matter was brought concerning foreign affairs on this floor. And much of the issues were put hold, awaiting a full statement. In fact, the chairperson promised that she would be coming up with a statement. So it could not have been taken that it was abrupt. Number two, there is a substantive minister. With the two state ministers, I wonder whether all the three had an eye operation, Right Honourable Speaker. I know some are elderly, but still their eyes are able to see. So on that premise, Right Honourable Speaker, let the minister say yes, he's in charge, and allow us to debate this very important statement. After all, it's a report of Parliament. There is the lead of government business, there is the vice president. We are competently constituted, Right Honourable Speaker. We shall proceed whether with or without their input, Right Honourable Speaker.
Now, what I can confirm is that Honourable Riem is in Austria, and Honourable Mateke, who was assigned to be here today, is the one who had a cataract operation. That's the information I have. But the senior minister, can't he come tomorrow and we'll have this debate? Too senior.
Madam Speaker, I think your proposal is not bad. However, we don't know what has happened until we check. But I'm suggesting, Madam Speaker, that the House can continue and we shall avail the Hansard to the ministers responsible to read and come to respond. I think that's the best way, because we cannot clarify now because in the absence of the minister. However, what clarification is required will be recorded, and we ask the minister to read and come back here. Thank you.
And I'm raising this procedural issue, Madam Speaker, in line with the Rule 103(1) of our rules. And I read verbatim, it says, for any ministry, the minister or at least the minister of state shall attend sittings of the House. And where none of them is able to attend, a minister shall request another minister to represent that ministry's interests in the House and notify the Speaker accordingly. Madam Speaker, it is evident that you are actually not even notified of who was delegated after the two could not attend. We have had enough scenarios where ministers are hiding on very, very serious issues. We have just seen one about elections of councillors. I personally raised a matter on the brutality being meted on the street vendors in Kampala. You made a directive to the effect that the minister today, Tuesday, appears with a statement. The minister is not here, neither the Minister of State is here. we are only getting excuses from the Prime Minister. Somebody just yesterday was saying we have people with PhD in excuses, and that's why we are failing economically. But, Madam Speaker, this is the rule. And whoever is not living up to the rule is actually defying it. I'm wondering whether it is not procedurally right to summon these ministers to the Rules and Privileges Committee for some disciplinary action, because they are actually defying the very rules this Parliament made. Thank you very much.
Further, Right Honourable Speaker, at the close of last sitting, you had directed the clerk to come up with a list of ministers. And they've continued to abuse this with impunity. Right Honourable Speaker, it's time that you moved your chair to act decisively. Otherwise, they will take it for granted, and as the result, this House will be bogged down by failure of ministers to be present. And they'll blame this House. Right Honourable Speaker, may I remind you that you had tasked the clerk to come up with a list of the attendance of ministers in this House. We are waiting, and therefore, this is the time, Right Honourable Speaker.
So,
Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, the Minister of Foreign Affairs directed to come here tomorrow so that we can have this debate and get responses without fail. Honourable members, the public gallery, we have Mr. John Bosco Olwoch, of the Speaker of Agago, District Local Council. He has come with the Deputy Speaker. He's also called John Bosco Oloya. You're welcome. They're represented by Honourable Judith Franca and Honourable Mark Mott. Welcome. So let's go to the next item.
Item number 5 on the order paper, laying of papers.
Where are my commissioners? Can I request Commissioner Ali to lay the papers?
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the New Vision Printing and Publishing Company Limited financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2015. Back to lay. I beg to lay the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay the National Planning Authority financial statement for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay the Pride Microfinance Limited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay the Nakivubo War Memorial Stadiums Trust financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2013. I beg to lay. I beg to lay the Mbarara, Kenda and Tororo Lira Power Transmission Lines Project financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2014. Back to lay. Back to lay the Amber House Limited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2013. I beg to lay. I beg to lay Road Sector Support Project 1, ADF loan number 10015009644 and 21015001394 and grant number 210015500466 Kabale Kisoro Bunagana Chianika Road financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Road Sector Support Project 11 ADF loan number 21001500 ID number PG Uganda UDB 018 financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Bank of Uganda Credit Reference Bureau Disposition Fund BMZ ID 2007-65305 financial statement for the period ended 30th June 2015. Beg to lay. I beg to lay privatization and a utility sector reform project, divestiture and redundancy accounts for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited electricity sector development project Kawanda Masaka Power Transmission Line financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Uganda Post Limited financial statements for the financial year ended 30th June 2014. I beg to lay. I beg to lay National Information Technology Authority Uganda financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Insurance Regulatory Authority financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2014. I beg to lay. I beg to lay Uganda Wildlife Education Center financial statement for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay Engineering Audit Report on a selected sample of road bridge contracts implemented by Uganda National Roads Authority during the financial year 2014-2015. Beg to lay. I beg to lay the Uganda Electricity Generation Company Limited financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2013. Beg to lay. Beg to lay Uganda Wildlife Training Institute, Kasese, financial statement for the year ended 30th June 2014. Beg to lay. I beg to lay the Post Bank, Uganda Limited, financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2014. I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lee. I didn't realize it was very popular. You can see how popular you are, General. Thank you. Item 6. Oh, all those are sent to the Public Accounts Committee for expeditions. COSAS, these are COSAS. Okay, all these are sent to the Committee on Statutory Authorities, State Enterprises, for expeditious perusal and report back. Item 6.
Item 6 on the order paper, motion for the presentation, consideration, and adoption of the report of the Committee on National Economy on the request by government to borrow up to Kuwait dinars 3.5 million equivalent to United States dollars, 11.32 million from the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development to finance the construction of the 36 kV and 11 kV distribution project in the 6 districts of Uganda, namely Kiryandongo, Kibale, Nebi, Bushenyi, Kasese, and Rukungiri.
Honorable the Vice Chair, Committee of National Economy. You're in the shadow.
Right Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Members of Committee on the National Economy considered the request by government to borrow up to Kuwait dinars 3.5 million, equivalent to 11.32 million, from the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development to finance the construction of the 33 kV and 11 kV distribution project in 6 districts of Uganda, namely Kiryandongo, Kibale, Nebi, Bushenyi, Kasese, and Rukungiri in accordance with Rule 166 2B of the Implementing Rules of Procedure. The request was presented to this House by the Honourable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on 17th August 2016, and accordingly referred to the committee for consideration. The committee considered and scrutinized the request and now begs to report. The committee held meetings with the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development.
That one they can read. That one the members can read.
Sorry?
That one they can read.
Yes, I'm going to summarize, Madam Speaker. And with the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development and the Rural Electrification Agency, and also held undertook a field visit and inspection to one of the proposed implementation sites of this project, that is Kiryandongo. Now, by way of background, and I'll be quick, Madam Speaker, for any country, adequate supply of electricity is a necessity for development. Development for any country is also measured by the amount of power consumed. Addressing this infrastructure bottleneck is evident in many sub-Saharan African countries and is important for several reasons. It is needed to engender a stronger supply response and raise potential growth. An added consideration for many low-income developing countries is the importance of improved supply of electricity infrastructure to foster economic diversification and structural transformation. For example, in the absence of reliable electricity supply, it is difficult for economies to transition from low to high productivity activities. At the center of Uganda's growth and development strategy is a program of infrastructure investment in projects that address electricity production and supply infrastructure gap. The government of Uganda, in partnership with donors, has increasingly made significant development allocations for rural electrification projects. These investments are aimed at improving the rural electrification transmission network, thus contributing to easing access to electricity. Since 2006, REA is the Rural Electrification Agency, has built over 7,000 kilometers of medium voltage line and over 4,000 kilometers of low voltage. These investments have so far increased power coverage from 1% to 20% to date. This project aims to further extend the rural power line coverage by construction of 285 kilometers network in the districts of Kiryandongo, Kibale, Nebi, Bushenyi, and Rukungiri. The project is critical to facilitating the implementation of rural electrification program to increase accessing and unlocking suppressed demand. The major objectives of the project objectives. The major objective of this project is to contribute to implementation of rural electrification strategy and plan 2013 to 2022, and the specific objectives of this project include the following: spur rural development through the provision of cost-effective energy alternatives, curb rural-urban migration through the provision of services and opportunities in rural parts of Uganda, improve the health of vulnerable minorities, especially women and children, through the replacement of kerosene as a source of energy, meet the current and future demand in beneficiary rural areas, and make accessible the energy generated by providing enough distribution line to absorb the energy distributed. With those objectives in mind, let us look at the loan terms. This is a concessional loan. The loan amount is 3.5 million dinars, Kuwaiti dinars. The loan period is 25 years. Grace period is 4 years. Interest rate is 1.5% per annum on the disbursed and outstanding loan amount, and the service charge is 0.5% per annum on the disbursed and outstanding loan amount, with a commitment charge of 0.5% per annum on the disbursed amount. Let us now turn to the observations and recommendations of the committee. The committee observed that government has been slow in fulfillment of loan effective conditions upon signing of loan agreements in order to trigger disbursements of committed funds for the implementation of debt-financed project for rural electrification. And therefore the committee recommends that government should ensure speedy fulfillment of effectiveness conditions of the financing agreement for the loan in order for the committed funds to be released by the Kuwait Fund on time to guarantee the timely implementation of this project. Generation and access to electricity. The committee welcomes government's deliberate efforts of investing largely in the generation of power. However, there is still mismatch in the electricity transmission and distribution infrastructure necessary to evacuate the power and make it available to consumers. Therefore, the committee recommends that government streamlines this mismatch between generation, transmission, and distribution over the medium term in order to ensure that the medium term of 30% access to electricity is attained, but also ensuring that all generated power is consumed. Inadequate government counterpart funding. The committee noted that the majority of debt financed by rural electrification projects require government counterpart funding for payment of taxes and for compensation of project affected persons. For the period 2015 to 2019, the required government counterpart funding for rural electrification projects to be financed by debt is estimated at Uganda shillings 102 billion. For this particular project, government counterpart funding is estimated at Kuwaiti dinars 1.288 million for acquisition of land and for right-of-way, taxes, audit fees. The committee therefore recommends that government makes a firm commitment to provide counterpart funding for all loan projects where there is low absorption due to lack of counterpart funding. All future loans whose counterpart funding is not provided in beneficiary sector budgets will not be submitted to Parliament for approval. Arrears for leaveways compensation. Yes, the committee noted that the financial requirement for way leaves compensation continue to escalate as new rural electrification projects are embarked on. The situation is expected to get worse when REA, over the next years, implements a number of debt-financed rural electrification projects, including this particular one. As at the end of October 2015, the outstanding way leaves bill verified by the chief government valuer stood at UGX 18 billion, rounded up to the nearest 19 billion, for completed and ongoing rural electrification projects. The committee therefore recommends the following. Government should, over the medium term, prioritize the provision of funds to settle the arrears. The Rural Electrification Agency should complete way leaves acquisition process before engagement of the contractors. This will minimize redundancy of the equipment on site and possible interest charges on the idle equipment. Government should consider acquiring a central corridor for infrastructure projects to reduce on repeated compensation whenever infrastructure projects are implemented to accommodate, among others, power lines, water pipes, communication infrastructure, and road reserves. The Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should expedite the rollout of the World Bank-funded projects on electronic land registry and preparation of standard valuations for different parts of the country. As a matter of urgency, the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should enhance the capacity of the Valuation Department, which is now too thinly manned to cope with the demand for land valuation, especially for infrastructure development projects. Following what happened when the government chief valuer and UNRA disagreed on valuation amount along Entebbe Express Highway that led to diversion of the road, government should consider setting up a land ombudsman to arbitrate in cases where there is disagreement in land valuation. Electricity generation and cost. The committee observed that though there has been an increase in the country's electricity generation capacity, the average cost of electricity in the country has remained high. Ugandan producers and consumers continue to incur a high cost of composition of energy as part of the overall production costs. This makes Uganda's manufactured goods uncompetitive compared to products from countries like India, China, South Africa, which have fairly sufficient quantities and competitive prices of energy. These countries have energy mix which costs between 4 to 8 US cents per kilowatt hour compared to Uganda's 16 US cents per kilowatt hour. The committee therefore recommends that government steps up efforts to increase power supply, that is the timely implementation of ongoing energy generation projects and negotiations of Jagali Hydropower Station, which will gradually help to reduce energy prices to about 7 US cents per kilowatt hour by 2017. In addition, government should consider making it a building requirement that all housing plans in the city and urban authorities above a certain threshold should have solar installations. This will go a long way towards saving grid power for industry and encourage job creation and production for export. Government should also consider other off-grid energy sources, such as part of the existing energy mix for easier access and reduce the cost of connecting isolated areas, as well as reducing pressure on the existing grid power and reduce costs of wind, solar, off-grid, micro, and I think hydro on small rivers. Productive use of electricity. The committee observed that there have been increased efforts towards the strengthening of transmission and distribution network in rural areas that has improved power supply reliability in the rural areas. the productive use of this electricity is still very low. The committee recommends that government should ensure that the drive to step up electrification and end user connections is followed by efforts by encouraging effective use of electricity in these rural areas. In addition, government should consider provision of appropriate incentives for industries located in rural areas to spur rural industrialization, especially in agro-processing for value addition and job creation in rural areas. This should be followed with the urgent need for rural power intensification by setting up power transformers in growth areas. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the request by government to borrow Kuwait dinars 3.5 million, equivalent to $11.32 million from the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development to finance the construction of the 33 kV and 11 kV distribution projects, 6 districts of Uganda, namely Kiryandongo, Kibale, Nebi, Bushenyi, Kasese, and Rukungiri, be approved subject to the above recommendations. I beg to report, and I beg to lay on the table this signed report by members of the committee. I beg to lay, and the related documents that we are considered, that we used in consideration of this loan, reviewing of this loan, which include signed minutes, the minister's brief on the proposal, that is the Minister of Finance and the User Ministry, the proposal, the project appraisal documents, the loan approval guide, the Rural Electrification Agency project summary report, agreed minutes of negotiation and draft loan financing agreement, the Rural Electrification Agency strategic plan. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and the Committee on National Economy. Honourable members, I confirm that it has been signed by more than 1/3 of the members, so it's eligible for debate. Any comments? Honorable Kaunde, then we go here. 1, 2, 3. Honorable Bayo, Babadiri, Ababiku, then I come this side.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Committee on National Economy for the report. Given the relative peace and stability in the country, Madam Speaker, many of the Ugandans are now involved in production. And further that, now there is a program on a youth livelihood program and women entrepreneurship program. Madam Speaker, many of our people down there in the villages and in our districts are very willing to work and produce. However, with the absence of electricity, most of them are usually bogged down, especially now that power is useful not only in value addition but also in preservation of agricultural input. Therefore, this project is very good for our rural people, and we are aware that 86% of them are involved in the informal sector. Madam Speaker, I also want to agree with the committee's report that the prices of power in this country are very high. Every day on TV, we see people die as they try to connect power illegally because they cannot afford power. Therefore, as the government takes place in this, as government tries to undertake this very good initiative, they should also try to review the prices of power in this country, because it's also not good to have only power lines when the people are actually not accessing and utilizing the power. Madam Speaker, I want to support the committee's recommendation, and I request the House also to support and pass this loan. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ayo. Then Babadiri, after you, Babadiri.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we have invested a lot in generating power. You can talk about Karoma, Ayago, Isimba, among others that
will soon begin to generate a lot of electricity for this country. And once power is generated and not evacuated and then distributed for consumption, that would actually be a loss to the country. So I want to support the committee on their recommendation that Parliament do grant government or authority to get this loan so that some of these areas like Kasese, Rukungiri, and then Busenyi and others should also be able to get power in the villages like we have supported in other areas. However, Right Honorable Speaker, I am concerned that normally when this program for rural electrification is being done, compensation for where you live has become a problem. And I would want government to take this one very seriously, because if it is not done, very soon community will begin to reject, to request, to demand that unless they are paid and compensated, this power line will not pass in their area, because this is becoming a problem even in my constituency. And Right Honorable Speaker, on the cost of power, I want the Ministry of Energy to tell us exactly where the problem is, especially in the Elgon area, where we have still continuous illegal power connection, and which is contributing to a very serious power loss, and this is why the cost of electricity is charged onto other people. Why has it become very difficult for government to enforce ensuring that there is no illegal connection, which is more common in Elgon area? Recently, they gave a report where we had a loss of over 17 billion, and this is covered by charging other people highly and government also compensating. So I think this is an area where government and Ministry of Energy should come out very strongly and fight this illegal connection so that partly we reduce on the cost of electricity in the country. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Kuna Babadiri, then Babiko, Wamakuyu, Macho. Then I go with the side.
Hello. Is it fine now? Hello.
Can you assist Honorable Babadiri?
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the Committee of Economy for National Economy for this elaborate report. Madam Speaker, the issue of rural electrification is very important, and we need to support this project because it will help the power to go to different parts of the district. Because without this money, you will find that the power goes along the main roads and does not reach areas like schools, hospitals, headquarters, which are in rural areas. I can give you a typical example of Koboko. We claim to have power, we are rejoicing, but the power only follows the main roads. The schools, health centers, and headquarters in rural areas are not reached by this power. So let us hope that after funding these 6 districts, we shall also move to other districts like Koboko so that we can have rural power in all our rural areas in Koboko district. Madam Speaker, the issue of counter funding is very, very important. When the condition is laid that government must give such amount of money, and the donor gives the money, at the end of the day, government does not provide its counter funding. As a result, delaying the project, and interest accumulates. Now we're going to pay both the loan plus the interest which is accumulated. I think in the future we have to think seriously, government. Unless you have the counter funding, we should not actually pass the budget, because we are just funding it, getting it, and we shall never implement. So this one is very serious. I would like the minister to tell us whether that money is present, and as soon as we pass this loan, will that money be available, and how much is it? So without that, I think we are creating more problems than ever. Madam Speaker, electricity generated, if I can go back to hours which are generated using local hydropowers, it's not enough for industries. You find that even if you put an industry, the power is not enough. So when you want to provide power, it should be enough for industries, for lighting, and for irrigation. so that we can use it for for pumping, let us say, machines. So power should not be only limited to specific areas. It must be used for various reasons. Madam Speaker, I support this loan. Let us hope that we shall get soon for the other districts. Thank you very much.
No, Baba Viku, then Wamakuyu.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity.
3 minutes,
support.
Please. 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I support the recommendations, but however, Right Honourable Speaker, as this is a common good, we need assurance from the user ministry, because we have got rich experience that people come here to plead. We approve these loans when they have not done their primary roles. Can we get assured that as soon as we consent to this, this money is borrowed, it is rightly absorbed so that it does not have negative implication financially in terms of the interest rates? I still remember when the Minister of Finance stated here that some of the monies borrowed got delayed because we did not prepare adequately. Therefore, we need assurance from the user ministry. Second, Right Honourable Speaker, the cost of electricity in this country. We have been talking to support the rural areas. But Right Honourable Speaker, if you compare the benefits we are getting from the center, especially from Kampala, and that in Adjumani, here we get electricity cheaply compared to what our rural people are getting. What is the challenge? How do we ensure that the rural districts also get power at a lesser cost than what they're experiencing? And many of these powers taken are like satellite powers. They go to the headquarters where we have the business communities. They cannot use this power. How can we enrich the usage of this power so that our people develop? Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, in relation to compensation, I think the major problem is about planning. Can we help our urban centers so that they are well planned? And when we get these projects, compensation issues may be reduced. Because many of the town councils, many of the municipalities, when these projects are taken, the major issues are about planning and compensation. Can the ministry, in relation to planning, collaborate with the Ministry of Energy so that some of these issues are sorted out? Thank you.
Oda Wamakuyu, then Macho, then I'll go a bit this side. I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity. I also join colleagues to support the motion. Right Honourable Speaker, we agreed one time the issue of compensation for well use. But since these are many projects going to rural areas, government could only afford to compensate high voltage. But for low voltage, which goes deep in villages, we proposed that we leaders could mobilize communities to allow government to invest, because there are several of them. If government goes on compensating each and every area, it's going to be expensive. We've seen a point. I'm from Bugisu area, Erogon, where they said there's a lot of power theft. But when I remember, there was an operation called the Operation Sigima in Kampala. That was also for illegal connection. I think in every country there is that element of power theft, not only Elgon. But we are trying, as leaders, we are trying to manage that. Honourable Speaker and honourable members, we agreed with my people in the area, we mobilized the line which went up to, from Muyembe up to Namaru, there was no compensation element. I talked to Wananchi. There was no element of compensation. Right now, we are also in a process to give UNRWA a road from Muyembe to Namaru. Because they don't have money, we've agreed with the community, let them build the road, government will pay the money in due course. So I encourage colleagues, let us try to mobilize communities to have these people have access power. But if we insist on the compensation, these lines are many and the government will not be able to fund all of them. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee talked about they had the field tours. But I don't know whether I have seen areas where these projects have already collapsed, should they work. We've seen areas where they have put lines, they have not commissioned them, they have not handed over to the collectors, either memo what, but they have collapsed. So as we pass this money, let us be mindful of shoulder work. I've seen many lines in Elgon which have totally collapsed and have not handed over. And recently, we, as a committee of natural resources, we had a meeting with Umeme. And we advised Umeme, conclude. Let me conclude.
Okay, conclude.
Projects. They get projects from whoever is a rural electrification agents. They have to agree on the time for maintenance. Because now what's happening, Umeme is charging extra account. Extra account is, it has no money. For them, they are now demanding the investments. So, Right Honorable Speaker, should the work should be looked into it. And the last counterpart funding is the money provided in the budget. I'm a member of the budget, but I'm not aware of this law, and I want the chair of the committee to educate us. Otherwise, the government is incurring a lot of expenses on unutilized funds, and they are paying costs. I beg to support the motion, subject to those amendments.
It's not the government which is incurring, it is the taxpayers, ultimately. Oda Macho, then Mbabali, then
Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to support this motion because Uganda, we are the road of industrialization, and major people in rural areas and even in urban areas, their major emphasis has gone towards small-scale industries. For instance, in the Busia municipality, where I'm a leader. But the major challenge we are getting, Right Honorable Speaker, are the implementers, the Umeme. We are having a challenge, which I pray that doesn't occur in Kasese and these other districts that we are recommending for this project. Because in Busia, as a district, we find that when there is a problem with electricity, our people have to use border borders to go to Tororo. Umeme has a regional office that is servicing almost 5 districts. They are still using the old colonial districts to give services to our people. And many times, good enough, the Honorable Minister is here, we have requested that since Busia is central, let us have a service office for Umeme that will assist Namaingo, that will assist Bugiri, that will assist even other nearby districts there. At the same time, Right Honorable Speaker, during the planning, things are done well, but implementation, you find that the implementers don't give the right number of transformers that we are put in the project. We are having a challenge in most urban centers of this country where we are having rural electrification projects being implemented. For instance, in the Busia municipality, 30 years NRM in power, we still have load shedding. When you ask them what is the problem, they say we don't have enough transformers. That's why I want to support my colleague who talked about counter planning. The Ministry of Planning and the Ministry of Energy must come to know the needs of the people so that it can fit, it is planning to shoot the need of energy.
No, Mbabali, then Waruswaka, then I'm coming this side. I'll come back later. Moving this side.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really thank the committee for coming out with a comprehensive study and a report of electricity. But I think 3 points are not captured. Power is still very expensive, in a manner that power losses are still very high. Power is lost during transmission. Power is lost through illegal connections. Power is lost through failure to pay bills. All these matters need to be captured. Each percentage loss of power is equivalent to $4 million. So that means by the time last year we looked into power, power has got about 38% losses, and by the time of disbanding UEB, the power loss was at 17%. And you can bear in mind what a loss means. A percentage of power loss is equivalent to $4 million. So the committee should address ways and means how to save power losses. Madam Speaker, apart from power losses, there is abundant electricity in rural areas because people are not using power. There must be a marketing drive in order to interest the rural poor to use electricity. I'm of the opinion the rural poor and people to use electricity. I'm of the opinion that power should be connected on credit to each house. So these connection fees are paid gradually so that there is a market drive.
Ona Waluswaka, then Imalingat, Nagai, then I come here, then I'll come here.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to thank the committee, and I say that I support that Parliament approves so that government borrows the loan. However, I'm not happy. The Minister of Finance, I don't know whether I'm not seeing, is not here to hear these comments. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, the issue of early procurement of service providers. We are going to get this money, and then we hear procurement guidelines and what? Right Honourable Minister, especially for energy, please, early procurement of service providers. On the issues of compensation, right of way, Madam Speaker, we have projects, they are not moving because the contractor has no access to the site. On this note, I want to request that people get compensated early enough so that the contractors get places where they are going to work. I want to request, Right Honourable Speaker, this business, we shouldn't go into the business of UNRA where they got money and they give to contractors to compensate. How do you give a contractor who doesn't know even someone, the owner of the land? How to propose that this money goes to Ministry of Lands? They know the owners of land. Others, you may even give the whole of this money to energy. They don't know the owners of the land, and they give to the contractor. Madam Speaker, I don't know whether the committee considered their constituencies and districts without power in this country. It's good some of these districts, at least they have. Did they consider districts without power? Their districts, Madam Speaker, if I'm not mistaken.
Honorable Imalingat, Nagai, Augan, I can't keep the others here. I'll come back to you. I'm now this side, but I'll come back.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. First and foremost, I want to thank the committee for this report. And this therefore means that I do support the report. But Madam Speaker, I wanted to know from the chairperson and the committee, in the last parliament, there was a loan from Islamic Development Bank which was supposed to be passed, and it was supposed to cover districts including mine and the constituency. And people from Uganda, from Rural Electrification Agency in Kamocha, moved even in my constituency, trying to inform the people that before 2016, they should have received the power. But up to today, nothing is there. And when you look at the coverage of electricity, Madam Speaker, you find that some districts have electricity coverage of over 70%, and others have less than 10%. What could be the problem? And where did this loan go? Was the money received? Did it go where? Two, I pray that as we are passing this loan, the agents of corruption should be dealt with seriously. Because if they are not dealt with, most of this money will go with the corrupt people, and the people will not receive the services. Thirdly, I want to stress it very clearly here, that when we are passing always these loans,
Member, you know, when you are talking about your constituency or your district, for the answer, it's important that you mention. Don't assume the minister knows where you come from. You talked about your constituency without naming, your district without naming.
Okay. My constituency is Toroma County in the district of Katapi. And
okay, Honorable Nagai then Awogan. Mukitale, we go to Noya, then I come to the middle.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was listening to the report from the committee, and as a house, we've always supported energy and improving the lives of our people. However, we as taxpayers, or the Ugandan taxpayers, always meet the cost of refurbishing aging facilities, getting the loans, and we know very well that we privatized most of this energy sector. So we need the energy system to be aware that we are facilitating. As others decry illegal connection, Kampala residents are being encouraged to go back to illegal connections because we have now the prepaid Yaka. But to access a meter of Yaka now, it can take you 6 months in Kampala. People are willing to pay, but now Umeme is stalling the process. That means there are corrupt people who want Kampala people to go back to the postpaid. So as we are trying to streamline the energy sector, the service providers are frustrating people who are willing to go on prepaid. Actually now it's corruption for you to get a prepaid, a prepaid. It's not as easy as getting a SIM card. It's very hard, it's now expensive, and you cannot access it. So through you, Madam Speaker, we would want the minister to talk to the agencies, Umeme, not to frustrate people who want to pay for the service of electricity.
Information from Kabura.
Thank you, my colleague, to give me the way. We visited Namamve. Namamve is an industrial park. But when you find the factories established there, those are the people who really have the capacity to pay the power which they want to use in their factories. But it's a nightmare. They are crying for transformers, connections, they are not there. So
the industrial park?
Yes, Namamve Park. There are some industries who don't have transformers there. The wires are connected, but they want those high voltage transformers to not connect in their factories. So as much as we are passing these loans, the agencies which supply power must have also a strategy, to be a market-driven strategy, that people who can manage, they should provide them quickly because they're able to pay. And it has a very high economic multiplier effect. Because if factories...
You are now smuggling. Please conclude.
Madam Speaker, the intention of privatizing some of these utility areas was to have efficiency. So when we see that privatizing some of...
Honorable Ogan Mukitale Noya, we go to Odur and then come here and then...
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I represent the people of Kumi Municipality. First, I want to appreciate the committee for the effort that they put in, and I know as a country, God is finally going to bless us. Madam Speaker, I have a concern. Because of the formulation of REA, the Rural Electrification Agency, it seems we are taking our attention to the rural areas and forgetting the urban. I represent Kumi Municipality. Therefore, I want to state it clearly that most of our urban centers are getting darker and darker every day. Because we have neglected them, you think we are okay. I am trying to say, as you are getting loans for the rural areas, you should also bring here paper asking for a loan for putting security lights in all our urban centers, so that we become balanced. Madam Speaker, that one apart, I think it's a high time that we consider asking our ministries, whenever they come for a loan, they must come with a loan performance report for the previous loans issued to ministries, given to ministries. That one will help us to check the performance on these loans. Otherwise, if we just go on granting, they will grant us more problems. Madam Speaker. The other thing that I wanted to suggest, the poles that are used by our service providers, so much rot, they are of poor quality. I don't know what the ministry and those concerned can do to help us check on that particular matter, because these poles are very expensive, but they don't take long. Within a short time, they are already rotten. Smaller.
Una Mukitale, then we go to Noya, Odur, and then we come down here.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I thank the committee for this report. I support any effort to increase rural access of electricity from the current about 18%, how I wish it could be at least an average of 40. And I do this because we are mostly using charcoal. We are complaining about change of weather pattern and climate change challenges. But until we get affordable power, we shall continue on deforestation. I would like the other arm of government to fast track the operationalization of the Tree Planting Act 2003, which government has up now failed. When we choose to go hydro, it means you are depending on hydro. You are depending on the river flow. So how can you be the ones who are actually multiplying the cutting of trees, yet you are investing in dams? So that's challenge number one. Now, the challenge number two is that we are generating a lot of power, but we are consuming less because of failures in transmission and distribution. At the end of the day, the cost recovery tariff charges you even what you don't consume. And this is why Ugandans, we are missing the point. So I would like to really urge, as soon as possible, can we make sure that the power we do generate, we consume it, so that we don't punish citizens who are using this power for those who are the stolen power, the technical failure, and the ones generators are making a lot of money from government, even when we are not putting this power for use of the poor. Now, the other point is of compensation. We cannot be the same government
looking for access for standard gauge rail, the other day looking for pipeline, the other day for whaling, the other day. Why don't you, can I make this one point, Madam Speaker? That's the last one.
Conclude.
Madam Speaker, this country can save a lot of money if land acquisition is done by an interministerial arrangement. Instead of standard gauge moving along and the others alone. That's where we're losing money.
Now, as when a member comes, I was a bit shocked by what Honorable Kakoza said about the industrial parks. I thought that the idea was that we put the facilities there, and this for just move in. So if there's, I hope someone will explain to us why transformers are not there.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I take the opportunity to thank the committee for the report they have given, and I really do support any effort by government to increase the electricity coverage in the country, as my colleague has said. A lot has been said, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, but I want to emphasize the issues of compensation, because the fund also includes the aspect of compensation to the people who will be along the way. Madam Speaker, I really request the Ministry of Energy to closely monitor these agencies. We are at pain. When you hear that the road construction is coming, you begin grappling, how will you handle the effect of compensation, where some people receive money, some don't have. And these are poor villagers whose lives depend on this land. At least if you don't want to compensate, don't start. But in a situation where other people are paid, then others don't receive money, you cause a lot of conflict in the community. So these people should learn how to manage conflict and compensate people adequately, and everybody should get. They should take that into consideration. The second point, Madam Speaker, is the issue of cost of installation. Just this morning, I received a phone call from one of the secondary schools in my district, just a small secondary school that has just started. Said they want, just for the power to be installed, they need 500,000. So the cost of installation will still curb members or curtail the community from accessing this electricity. So is there any way they can make it cheaper? That is at least an institution. How about individuals in their houses? It may be very difficult if the cost is not curtailed.
No, Bodur, the Oranya, then again Emmanuel, then I call, then we get.
Thank you very
then
much.
I come back this side.
The Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the committee for bringing forward this report, and for the record I offer my support that the permission be granted to government to borrow for extension of this very important line to the districts that have been mentioned. I, however, want to emphasize my own understanding of access and utilization. It appears that by mere passing of the electricity line in a particular area, government considers that that is enough to call that area an area which accesses electricity. It is very important that government reciprocates the good faith shown by locals in availing the land for the lines to pass, whether they are actually paid for or not. Because in many areas, you see the lines passing and the people who have offered land are not taken care of. I have a case in my own constituency in Erute South, 2 sub-counties in Amaj and Agali, where the main transmission line coming from Jinja is passing. There is a sub-county, there is a health center 4, there is a secondary school, and all these are along the lines and they don't have electricity. And people are demanding that if not, they can cut down the lines that are passing. So I hope in this one that government is going to construct, the locals around the areas are taken care of. In fact, it beats my understanding how the suppliers of electricity think in this country. They are the ones going to sell electricity and they want you to pay. If you are going to the market, you take your product. I think it's important that we review the policy such that whenever your building plan is approved, the people who supply electricity are also part of that. And they should bring the pole in front of your house. And your work is just to wire your house, have it connected, and you start paying. But you have to pay for a pole.
My Bolanya, then Ogen Rose, a call, then I go to Masiko. Yes, both of you. Then I'll come, Minister.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank the committee for their report. And electricity is really very important for our day-to-day living. Right Honorable Speaker, as many of my colleagues have said, we need not to target only the business centers. Many of our districts, especially in northern Uganda, when the connection was being done, they were targeting only the business centers. They are not mining of the schools, not mining of the health centers. Yet health centers are more important than the business centers. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, I appeal, let us look at all the angles. Let us consider the health centers, we look at the schools, as well as the business centers. On the compensation, Right Honorable Speaker, the report is saying now we have 18 billion to be compensated for the way leaves. Right Honorable Minister, I would like to seek clarification from you. Why do you accumulate all this much? 18 billion. And where are we going to get this 18 billion to compensate? When I was following the compensation in my district, Amoro, you find someone is demanding only 150,000. Some of them only 200,000. Why not during the process of connecting? You should have compensated those people. Why do you accumulate all those bills up to now? Right Honorable Speaker, my district Amoro was connected in 2013. And as I talk now, for the last 2 months, there is no power in my district because of the compensation issues. When the people of rural electrification went, they motivated our people, they registered their properties, and they promised them compensation. There is one guy who stopped that power must not pass from his area. Right now, for the last 2 months, my constituency is in darkness. So I am appealing, Right Honorable Speaker, we can get the best way. For rural electrification, it should be motivated by the people in that area. Let us get the way by not raising people's hope that there is money wherever power line passes through your land. Let us get the way of reducing the cost from the government. People can sit together, they can allow power line to pass from their area even without compensation. But the rural electrification people are raising the hope of an individual and they think that they must be compensated. Otherwise, Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to support and thank the committee for the very good report. Thank you so much.
Now, Bagenros, then Akol, then Masiko.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I hope I'm on now. So, Right Honorable Speaker, for the records, I'm Emmanuel Ongierto, Jonam constituency. Jonam constituency in Nebi district. I also want to thank the committee and I support the motion. And I want to believe the name Nebi here is mentioned in relation to the expansion which is supposed to go to Nyagak power station. Right Honorable Speaker, most of us know that West Nile started power on a generator in Arua. But over time, when Nyagak was coming, everybody expected that eventually the cost of power will reduce as we generate from Nyagak. Unfortunately, that has not happened. We still have expensive power. Number two, Right Honorable Speaker, from what members have talked here, I see the issue of mapping in terms of the routes that the power lines will take and in terms of the institutions and entities where probably the consumption will be. I'm asking myself, isn't it possible for the consuming ministries and entities to do this mapping early enough so that they start to negotiate with people early, so that people know that power lines will pass along here and we need to be prepared and we need to discuss and know what to do. And also the entities that will consume, the different, the ministry concerned already knows that in such an area we are targeting maybe this kind of, these health centers, we are targeting these schools and like that, so that when you have the power, then you know how to go, you have negotiated, and everything goes on a bit smoothly. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Akol, then Masiko.
Right Honorable Speaker, my name is Anthony Akol, Member of Parliament, Kilag North in Amoro District. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank you and the members of Parliament for the support you rendered to our family when I lost my mother. Right Honorable Speaker, several times we have had requests for loan all the time in this Parliament, but it is not improving on the economy. I would wish that the committee should start taking priority on loans on agriculture that will improve our production, and on issue of irrigation, and also look at loan on health sectors and education. It will be very great for me as a person. Key question that I want to find out from the committee: how will this loan increase on the revenue that the Uganda Revenue Authority will collect? These are the questions that I want you to begin asking. And then, for example, we are talking about electricity. How will this loan reduce on the cost of electricity to the consumers? As I talk, I have a rice miller in my sub-county in Pabo. Before we were operating this on a generator, the profit we were getting when we were operating on generator is better than when we connected it to electricity. So, how can it now reduce on the cost of electricity? Then, there is some grace period of 4 years that is given for us to start what? Paying back. Is it possible that this project will be implemented within 4 years? We have seen it here. We have borrowed loan. It has taken too long without implementation. I see that the ministry is telling you that this project will be implemented within 15 months. I don't think you have seen the schedule. It is not practical. We have not seen it in these loans that have been borrowed. Please, I wish this is taken into consideration. Thank you very much.
Honorable Masiko, Chomuhendo, then Namuganza. Then I'll get. We have time for all of you. Don't worry. I'll give all of you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like also to thank the committee for the report well written. I concur with their findings and strongly support their recommendations. I'd like to, Honorable Speaker, members, I think from the observation, it's very clear that the length of distribution sometimes is not commensurate with the connectivity at household level. And this is a very big concern. I would like to ask the ministry to put in some innovations so that at least for every length of lines that are put in place, a certain minimum number of households are connected, and such reports are given to us as members' representatives. Honorable Speaker, you also realize that one of the issues that has come up on the floor, which I also have to emphasize, we need a clear message. Let us get a clear message as representatives of the people. Are we paying for way leaves or we are not? And if we are not, has there been a comprehensive consultation with the communities who are going to be served with these lines? If we don't get that clear, Madam Speaker, we are likely to go out there and give conflicting information. So let the ministry now tell us, we demand, what is the status? Are people going to pay for way leaves, or we are going to go there as a community and convince them, because we know they need the electricity? Are we going to convince them? And if we convince them, what kind of message are we supposed to give them? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Chomuhendo. then Namuganza. Then I'll come to you, all of you. You'll speak, don't worry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the records, I'm called Babas Jennifer Chomhendo, Woman MP Kaga District. I would like to thank the committee for the job well done, and I would also like to support the request to approve the loan. Madam Speaker, I would like to see clarity from the committee. They talked about this loan going to fund the electricity in 6 districts, including Chibale. I'd like to know, is it the greater Chibale or the smaller Chibale of today? Because Kagadi was part of Chibale, and it is one of the districts that has the fast growing villages and very productive. And we are also affected by not having power in our areas. Madam Speaker, another problem we have in the villages when they are distributing power is I think they are not harmonizing the distribution and the connectivity. You find the power line is going through the swamps and there is no any activity there, but it has left out schools and hospitals in the other areas. So I would also request if we could advise the departments concerned that the people going to do the scope at the beginning should include the representatives of people and also the leaders, so that we can have the power in the right places. Madam Speaker, another problem we have always had as government is that sometimes we get this loan when we are not ready with our backup. Yes, I would like to advise the government that if we are borrowing this loan, we need to be ready with our part so that we don't delay the projects. Thank you.
Now, Namuganza, then Burundo, Bala. Yes, we go up, then we'll do this group here.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to respond to one issue that was raised by one of honorable member and others about the compensation issue. Madam Speaker, as government, we are having a lot of challenges as in regard to compensation. I want to report to you, Madam Speaker, that the honorable colleagues, when they are here, they speak a different language. When it comes to compensation and they are out in their constituencies, they forget about the oath of legislature. Madam Speaker, I'll give you, there is no order. I'm speaking on out of experience. Madam Speaker, you can't imagine that of recent, there is a project ongoing around the Nakaseke area, and an acre of land was valued at 200 million. And everybody knows Nakaseke. When we sat with the Minister of Finance, Government Chief Valuer, and UNULA, trying to revise those prices, I'm sorry to say the honorable colleagues, they were not with us. They are with the people, and it is true, as the honorable from Bugis area, where there is no meter, said, the costs of compensations have greatly affected the projects. And if you try to talk to the people, the leaders, Madam Speaker, they pass the other side and they tell the people, you go and demonstrate. Refuse. Government has money, and this is a fact. I have experienced this. Madam Speaker, I'm appealing to honorable colleagues that when the issue of compensation comes in, let us be fair. Because even, Madam Speaker, under land fund alone, the colleagues here, the honorable members, have made matters very difficult. They can tell the landlord, if they are not giving you at this rate, don't accept. We have tried to have dialogues with them. But I thought, as a member of parliament,
Order.
I will have to say this in the House.
Point of order.
So that
Point of order.
Order.
Point of order.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, Honourable Minister has been consistently blaming honourable members of Parliament for supporting the voters who voted for them. Yet, Right Honorable Speaker, wherever the people of electricity, wherever they move to the particular area, it's them who normally gather the community and bring the government valuer to value the properties of the community. Is it in order to blackmail honorable members of parliament that they are the one making her work difficult, yet they are not? Is it in order?
I don't know the circumstances that the minister is talking about, but I know that under the constitution, if the government is going to acquire land for public purposes, the people are entitled to urgent and adequate compensation.
You're right, Madam Speaker. The people are entitled, but I was raising an issue of over-exaggerated, how to respond, costs, which costs sometimes they fall on our side to the extent of the chief government valuer, who is under my ministry, thinking that he has personal interest or the ministry has interest, which interest sometimes to increase the prices I drive out of political influence. Madam Speaker, I want to say the project which is underway is a government project. We appreciate that electricity is vital. If electricity can be supplied to so many of these areas, the rural areas, first of all, we know that the produce, agricultural produce, we are losing a lot of it because of lack of money, poor preservation. So I appeal to honorable colleagues that where these lines are going to pass, it is through the Minister of Lands have been given some responsibility on compensating. We have been dialoguing, we have been having interministerial meetings, and that responsibility, much of it now, it is in lands. But let us cooperate to see that where we compensate, we give fair compensation or adequate, not because of political interference or influence, Madam Speaker.
Fortunately, no member has been named, so we just take the information. Honorable Burudo, then Abala, then we go to Ramwaka.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for finally your eye catching me. I'm called Brundo Alex. I represent the people of Ramburi. I have two concerns. Concern number one, I would suggest to the honorable members that time and again we have talked about corruption. And here we are struggling to get the loan to facilitate rural electrification. I would suggest that the concerned minister and then the technocrats, that is permanent secretary and others, as we pass this loan, we should task them to assure us that this money, time round, is not going to be stolen. So that we pass the loan, then the loan goes to do the work. Number two, we are here busy struggling to get the money. Yes, tomorrow you will find shadow work going on. What does it mean? They have planted the poles today. The following week, the poles are collapsing. Yes, this is very serious. From my place, they planted electricity poles. After one, I'm coming to that where they are saying in Bugis there is still power. I will come to that, Madam Speaker. Transformers, they bring all the transformers. Within a day, they have broken down. Now let me come back to the point of Bugis sub-region.
Okay, theft. 1 minute for theft.
There is no snake bite. The problem is, one, people are not sensitized when power is brought in an area. Number two, we have a problem of very, very expensive, high cost of paying
power. So now, it's only not in my place, everywhere. And therefore, if power is just passing on top of you, the local person who he has always seen power and he has a phone, he will be encouraged to do wrong things. Like if you don't put a padlock on your house and there are good things in the house, the thief will always be encouraged to go and steal.
With your 1 minute, let's go to Honorable Ramwaka. Ramwaka, then okay, Ramwaka. Let's hear your lady's voice. Ramwaka, Abala. Then I get this group here. I'm coming to the back bench. She's also in the back bench.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My name is Lamwaka Margaret, Woman Member of Parliament, Kitgum. I also want to add my voice by thanking the committee for the work well done. But my challenge is, at the end of the day, when funds are approved and the rural electrification is done, you get that only the town dwellers or the center dwellers are the one to benefit. My appeal is, if the connection is going to take place, please, the minister or the chairperson who have presented, kindly, we need all our schools to be connected. We need public institution like sub-county headquarters to be electrified. We also need the health centers. I'm talking with a record at hand that poles are set from Kitgum district towards Rome, but you get that all the lines, nobody is connected. We are still in dark ages. It is like we are still in 1960s, and yet Uganda is one of the first country which was first connected with electricity. So I would like to say we need really to do something. My second point is, I am also representing Northern Uganda on climate change. When electricity is connected to the rural person at the village, for sure, we shall cut down the high rate of burning charcoal, and I think many people will reduce the burning of charcoal because the electricity that we have there.
Abala, Chiwanuka, Majesi, Tumuzigu. Then, okay, I'll take that group.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. David Abala is my name. I want to add my voice to what my colleagues have said. Electricity is very, very important. The unfortunate thing, the way we get it. Sometimes, Madam Speaker, there are a lot of issues that surround some of these loans. Today, people are pleading. Tomorrow, they are pleading. But when they get the money, they get all the wings. They don't do the right things. And this thing is common in the Ministry of Energy. These are realities. Whenever we ask for reports from the Ministry of Energy, they rarely come. And it's in the record. And that's why, Madam Speaker, we should tell these members to their ears, and they should hear that we must fight corruption without discussion. Number two, the people who are supposed to be compensated must be compensated. Number three, Madam Speaker, don't worry about that. Number three, Madam Speaker, is that I would like the Ministry of Energy to give us a comprehensive plan for connecting electricity in this country. I want to give a simple example. In 2011, poles were put in a trading center called Akisim in Ngora district. From that time up to today, the poles are actually lying on the ground. And nothing has been done, Madam Speaker. But when you come and look at some of these things today, we never know where next. because I'm sure we shall be getting loans. That's why we should be on a know that after that place, where are we going next? For the good, so that we on a know, and that's how we can monitor and manage some of these issues at hand. And then the other one, which is very, very critical, Madam Speaker, is that I am wondering, like for the Minister of according to the report, the Minister of Lands, Housing, and the
No, Chwanuka Majesi, Tumuzigu, go to Rakojo, then I'll move like this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also like to add my voice in thanking the committee for coming up with such a wonderful report. And I support their report and their recommendation. Madam Speaker, sometimes some people think it's just political to say that we have excess power capacity in this country. What's generated at the moment is around 850. And what we're able to consume during peak hours is under 600. But over the next 2 years, we'll be generating over 1,600 megawatts. At the moment, access in the rural areas is just 7%. And around the country, at the national level, it's just 16%. Therefore, this report or the proposal that's being recommended to Parliament is very timely, that we need to invest in the distribution infrastructure. The paradox, however, and this is where it becomes very interesting. Over the last 6 years, we've borrowed over $538 million to boost our infrastructure capacity in the transmission. But out of that, we've been able to spend under $150 million. And it's running actually a review of what has been spent over the last 6 years. The average expenditure is around 30%. And on that, we are paying huge interest as a commitment fee. The question, therefore,
Honorable Majesi.
Can I just conclude?
Okay, he had some figures. 1 minute, then we'll go to Honorable Majesi.
The question, therefore, is it that we need more loans in order to boost the infrastructure, or we need to focus on what's the problem? Why do we have the lowest absorption capacity in the building of the infrastructure? And I think that's what Parliament really needs to address itself to. We've raised the issue of counterpart funding with the Minister of Finance. To our surprise, it's taken as a very casual issue. There is no remorse and there is no concern that Ugandans are having to pay huge expense on that. So, Madam Speaker, the problem really is why aren't we utilizing the money that we are borrowing? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Majesi, then to Muzigu, then I go to Rakojo, then we move the last group.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'd like to appreciate the Ministry, this Parliament and our committee for providing a facility for rural electrification for Bushenyi. My own constituency, Igara West, rural electrification, we're talking of not more than 5%. It's only centers around the tea factories which have electricity. So I'm really hopeful that this will spark growth and help development in our rural areas. But Madam Speaker, I find 3 key national issues being subdued in this report. Unless we lift them out and recognize their importance, I think we are likely to lose them. One of the issues is what a colleague has just said, loan absorption, the performance of this government in terms of implementation of our loans. I think this should not be the discussion in this small loan. I think this is a matter which is big. The committee should study, the Committee of National Economy, should study the whole aspect of how are we performing in terms of the loans we acquire and give us its report and recommendations. I think we should not lose this issue. The second one is the issue of land registry, the registration of land, administration, and valuation. They've mentioned it in the report, and you had the Honorable Minister kind of blaming the members of Parliament. I think the issue of land administration and management and valuation is a big issue. We shouldn't lose it in this report. Again, the committee, I think these natural resources, should study it and give us some concrete recommendations on how to improve land management and administration in this country. The third issue is illegal connection, power theft, particularly in the Elgon area. I think it's dangerous for us to keep on talking about it and we just bypass it. And you hear members saying in that region it is expensive. It can't be expensive in one region. And we cannot talk of power losses and corruption and so on, and we turn a blind eye to this problem. I was in an area, I thought I was concluding this, Madam Speaker. Just 1 minute.
Half minute.
I was in an area called Bulambuli, and I can confirm, you see an area where almost all homesteads connected have no meters, and they are connecting by simple wire loops. It's so dangerous, so, unethical. So I would like to propose that our committee should not keep just making small comments on this. Can you visit this area, study the problem, and make recommendations on what we should do? I think, Madam Speaker.
No, Tumzigu, then Rakojo, then we move like this. After him, Rakojo, Kahonda, Kaveruka, Uboya, we close there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Tumzigu Michael Kamcha, MP Kajara. My concern is about the situation at which we are getting power, and then the people are not using it, and we are continuing to do the same job, and the sensitization is not moving on. It's unfortunate the Minister of Trade and Industry is not here. Is the minister here? Not here. That minister needs this copy of the report most. The Minister of Trade and Industry should read this report, because at the moment, when the population of Uganda is increasing year after year, and we have more youth, we need rural industrialization. And if we share this report with that ministry, that's when we shall use the power, and that's when we shall be able to pay the loans and the interests. If we keep on getting power and we are not using it, at a certain point, we shall fail to pay the loans, and then we shall regret. The next is about the payment of loans. When it comes for loans and borrowing, the request comes to Parliament. But we don't see any progress in loan payment. I think it's high time we get regular reports about loan payments. It's true, some of the loans.
Honorable Rakojo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mine is on compensation. A lot of the electricity projects have been frustrated by lack of cooperation from the rural population because they feel that they are missing out on compensation. And we are not agreed on what we should do on compensation from what we are saying here. And yet when you look at Article 26 of the Constitution, you're protected from deprivation of your property if government is going to acquire your land, and the payment should be prompt, fair, and adequate. But mine is to stress the fairness. If we're trying to say that these, did we call them way leaves, that should be cheaper than actual acquisition of land, how are we going to sensitize these rural folk and come to a middle ground so that they realize that they should not demand for so much but it's a benefit for all of us, and so it should be a fair amount. And that brings me down to the Chief Government Valuer's Office. It's very frustrating to go there and find only like 3 staff members, and you need them in various places. We've suffered even like when you go to court, you need some of them to go there with you. You need them to go and value land so that government can actually pay, because they need to know what the actual value is. So I want to support the provision in the report that that office should be beefed up and they should have more staff members. It does not fall upon the Ministry of Lands alone, but also Ministry of Public Service. Thank you.
Honorable Kahonda, then Kaberuka, then Waboya, then Abigav.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support the motion. I have some observations. One is that in Greater Shey, actually in Western, most of the projects that are coming up, especially in relation to roads, they go to the traditional districts. That is leaving out the new districts. I would say that maybe it was submitted when the new districts were not yet created. But Mitoma district was created 7 years ago. So my recommendation actually is that when these projects are going into their regions, then these new districts should also be considered. Secondly, is the way how the electricity poles are put up. Actually, I have some areas in the Mitoma district in my constituency of Ruhinda where electricity poles are almost in the road. They cannot allow the expansion of the road. So I would propose that the committee should take it up with the relevant authorities. When they are implementing such a project, they should put that reservation. And in relation to that, they also affect some plots of individuals. Instead of putting in road reserves, you find they have put like 150 meters cutting across some individual reports. Lastly, is on economic part of it. When these projects are coming up in the constituencies, they come with big numbers, 200, 100 and above. So
So 200 what? 200 what?
Madam Speaker, I mean as in workers, when they are coming to connect electricity, to work on electricity, I urge colleagues that when these people are coming up, let's mobilize the locals, because it's one way for them to earn a living. Let them be mobilized and be sensitized such that they can earn a living from the project as well. Thank you.
Okay, kuna Kaberuka, then Waboya.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. James Kaberuka, Chinchezi West. Madam Speaker, I have risen up to support the proposal by the committee. But Madam Speaker, allow me to present the following concerns. One is on the readiness of the ministry requesting for this loan. At times we pass loans, and Madam Speaker, you have passed this through your leadership, this parliament has passed many loans, but usability is a challenge. To use these loans to its designated priorities is a challenge. I would like, Madam Speaker, for the ministry to tell us when they will commence on this project they are requesting loans for. Madam Speaker, I don't know whether there is a policy. When we are partnering with these governments, these countries that are giving us loans, why do they put a lot of conditions? And at what level are we supposed to evaluate these conditions vis-a-vis our abilities and our economic situations. For example, Madam Speaker, the French loan for the low power was passed, is it 2013? But Madam Speaker, in the rural education I was there, the French are asking this, they're asking this, they say we want the money to be changed into from US dollars to what? At what level do we analyze all these underlying issues that delay the project commence, Madam Speaker? Shouldn't the ministry deal with those hindrances, those conditions before they come to the Parliament to request for this, for the passing of these loans? Madam Speaker, there is another thing that I want to, Madam Speaker, allow me.
Honorable Waboya. Thank you, Madam
Speaker. For record, I'm Vincent Waboya. I represent Udadi East. I would like to also support the motion, but like colleagues are raising concerns, I also have a few concerns. The first one is the issue of surveying for these electricity lines. Before these lines are taken to your area, there must be a clear survey of where they are going to pass and which villages are going to be reached, which parishes are going to be reached. However, I do not see the concerned agencies doing this. It would be prudent that we get a copy of the surveys. If this project is coming to Sironko, to Budadi is where I represent, where is the survey showing where these lines are going to pass? Second, I would like to clarify on the issue of power thefts in Bugisu region particularly. This is something we all condemn as leaders, because these lines, if illegally tapped, electricity is killing people, so we cannot be seen to condone such acts. However, this is the concern. If the lines are being brought to a sub-county and they are ending in a nearby trading center, it is tempting for these villagers to hook the line, to take the lines to their respective villages. Why don't we ensure completeness of this job? Why would you take the lines and they end just in a nearby trading center and the people are only seeing light in the neighborhood? This tempts them to hook the lines, and dangerously so, using even barbed wires. So this is what we think is something we need to, Madam Speaker.
Abugaba. Now, honour members, in the beginning I was told that there was something they were still consulting on item 7, but they're now reporting that they are also ready with this one. So maybe we will receive that before the minister comes to, because they're all on the same sector. Abugaba.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. For record purposes, I'm Engineer Kafi Batabigawa Mirembe, and I represent Chibale County in Kamwenge District. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm an electrical stroke telecommunications professional engineer registered with the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. And I want first of all to applaud the committee for the rich report which they have presented, and I am in total support of the motion. And I also want to thank the implementing agency, which is the Rural Education Agency, for professional work done, at least for the projects in my constituency. Number one, Madam Speaker, why I say they are professional is that we might never have an incident where we are using hooks to tap electricity, because they have become innovative and installed insulated cables, which even reduces the risk of people getting shocked by the power. Now, for me, the issue I see in my constituency, at least, Chibale County, is one. I think there is a problem on the regulation side. The people who regulate service territory managers, I think, need to do us a favor to harmonize the connection fees. Right Honourable Speaker, I have 2 projects which are completed in my constituency, in 2 neighboring parishes, but the connection fees are exorbitantly different. One service territory manager is charging 130,000 to get connected, whereas in the neighboring parish, the other service territory manager is charging 600,000. So I have a scenario where one parish has actually rejected the project. For over 1 year, no single person has been connected to power. So right, Honorable Speaker, I was even planning to ask it in the Prime Minister's time. I think it is high time the regulator comes out to regulate and also to harmonize the connection fees. Otherwise, it is very bad experience. I have no explanation to give to the 2 neighboring parishes. They actually look at me as a traitor because maybe I favored one parish to be connected at a lower cost than the other. So this is where I need to be helped and to be advised. Right, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I've been the last person to speak, but I've used less than 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable members. Let me invite the chair to present the second report quickly. Honourable Vategeka.
Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members of the Committee on the National Economy considered the request by government to borrow special drawing rights 71 million, equivalent US dollar 100 million from IDA to finance the grid expansion and reinforcement project in accordance with Rule 1662B of the Implementary Rules of Procedure. The request was presented to this House by the Honourable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on 14 September 2016 and accordingly referred to the committee for consideration. The committee considered and scrutinized the request and now begs to report. And in the interest of time, I will skip because the matter is, the project, the report is uploaded. I will go straight to the project objectives. The project development objective is to increase availability and efficiency of bulk electricity supply in the project areas. This is particularly northern Uganda, which includes Gulu, Nebi, and Arua districts. And Madam Speaker, this will be the first grid expansion to northern Uganda. This will help in the evacuation of power from the new generation sites, such as Karuma and Isimba hydropower stations. We are talking about now transmission. And the project beneficiaries are the current and future electricity consumers in the project areas of Gulu, Nebi, and Arua districts. Approximately 1.6 million people will benefit from the increased availability of electricity supply. The proposed project will benefit existing grid-connected consumers, including residential, commercial, and industrial consumers, by meeting their suppressed demand and improving efficiency. Project components. I'll briefly talk about the components. Why, Madam Speaker, I would want to talk about components, because the committee made some adjustments, and basically the project has 3 components. Component A is the construction of transmission infrastructure. Valued, the loan is $80 million. Infrastructure, these are the wires, substation works, engineering, construction, supervision, and RAP implementation. Part B, which includes, as proposed, project implementation, operational support.
Madam Speaker, I'm suggesting that since we have been discussing on the first one, the first loan, I think it is prudent we first pass the first one and then we go for this one.
My intention is that the minister should speak to both of them before we take a vote. Please, present the report. Present the report.
Component B is project implementation and operational support, which includes a project implementation unit under the rubric of capacity assessment and the project implementation support, and the modernization of the Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited system and biodiversity offset. The two components are support to UETCL. And the third component, Madam Speaker, is sectoral strengthening for the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. And it has three subcomponents: coordination and supervision of social safeguards, sector skill assessment, and sector skill strengthening. I highlight these issues because we discussed them greatly in depth at the committee level. I think I should right away move to observations and recommendations. The rest we can read. The first observation is that there is a mismatch between electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. The committee observed that government has prioritized the implementation of electricity generation projects in the country by both public and private actors. However, implementation of generation and transmission projects have not been able to move at the same pace to ensure that all the power generated by both the public and private actors is fully evacuated and connected onto the national grid. For example, findings from the committee visit to the Ujagali hydropower plant in Jinja revealed that the plant had an installed generation capacity of 250 megawatts. Actual power generation was still below 60%. The committee therefore recommends that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and the UETCL should ensure that for new and upcoming power generation projects, plans for evacuating power from these plants should be prepared well in advance and timely implemented to ensure that the built power plants are fully utilized. This will save the country from incurring losses as a result of paying for power that is generated by these plants but not consumed. 2, low disbursement rates among UETCL debt-financed projects. The committee noted the low average disbursement. It was very low, at 30% of UETCL loans against original project lifetime as at 31st March 2016. The low disbursement rates are attributed to poor project preparedness of UETCL, especially through lack of sites for contractors to start the works. This is related to compensations again. Delays in government counterpart funds, delays in compensation of projects affected persons, among others. The committee recommends government should ensure that all proposed electricity projects presented before cabinet should be scrutinized to ensure that preparatory phases such as feasibility studies, compensation of project affected persons have been carried out before they are further submitted to Parliament for the approval. Inadequate government counterpart funding. The committee noted that the majority of debt-financed projects require government counterpart funding for payment of taxes and for compensation of project-affected persons. The committee recommends that government makes a firm commitment to provide counterpart funding for all debt-financed projects and have it ring-fenced. All future debt-financed projects whose counterpart funding is not provided in beneficiary sector budgets should not be submitted to Parliament for approval. 3, fulfillment of loan conditions. The committee observed that government has been slow in fulfilling loan effective conditions upon signing of loan agreements in order to trigger disbursement of committed funds for the implementation of debt-financed projects. The committee recommends that government should ensure speedy fulfillment of loan conditions of the financing agreement for this loan in order for the committed funds to be released promptly to guarantee timely implementation of this project. Where leaves compensation. The committee noted that the financial requirement for way leaves compensation continue to escalate as new projects are embarked on. So the committee recommends the following. UTCL should complete way leaves acquisition process before engagement of the contractors. This will minimize redundancy of the equipment on site and possible interest charges on the idle equipment. Government should consider acquiring a central corridor for infrastructure projects to reduce on repeated compensation whenever infrastructure projects are implemented to accommodate, among others, power lines, water pipes, and communication infrastructure and road reserves. As a matter of urgency, the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should enable the capacity, enhance the capacity of the evaluation of department, which is now too thinly manned. Government should consider setting up a land ombudsman to arbitrate in cases where there is disagreement in land valuations. Development of feasibility studies of energy projects. The committee observed the low development of feasibility studies for energy projects, particularly in generation and transmission segments. While some progress has been registered on mini hydros, large projects have hitherto taken too long in the development phase. The committee therefore recommends that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and Uganda Electricity and Transmission Company Limited accelerates the development of feasibility study reports and catalogue of all projects in the energy power sector, in the generation and transmission segments, in order to make them ready for investment and in order to attract long-term financing in the energy sector. Government should further utilize domestic resources to finance feasibility studies of infrastructure projects instead of using loan financing. Dependency on consultation, on consultancies, external consultants. The committee recommends that UETCL scales up plans for building the capacity of UETCL staff, especially in conducting feasibility studies and designing electricity transmission projects in order to cut down on the exorbitant amounts of project-funded funds spent on consultancy services towards conducting feasibility studies and designing transmission projects. Capacity building. The committee recommends that government should set up a dedicated institution that will constantly address the capacity constraints within the power sector for the project. Government should ensure that the power sector staff that will benefit from the capacity building components of this project are bonded. Regarding slow implementation of energy projects, the committee recommended that the Ministry of Energy and the Mineral Development, together with UETCL, prioritizes the interconnection of the country's electricity grid with that of the neighbors in the region by expediting the implementation of the interconnection of electric grids of the 5 Nile Equatorial Lake countries project, as this will increase on the supply and demand of electricity in the country. Regarding delays in payment of project affected persons, the committee recommends that Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and UETCL to transparently ensure that UETCL scales up the processing of project affected persons payments to ensure that the transmission corridor is handed over to the contractors in time. Once the acquisition is finalized, UETCL should further expedite the process of registering the acquired rights and secure the corridor in order to guard it against future encroachment, abuse, and losses. Regarding refusal to grant right-of-way to transmission line projects by project-affected persons, the committee recommends that UETCL ensures that it utilizes its communications strategy in order to provide adequate and timely information to the project affected persons on issues such as health impacts of high voltage transmission lines, so that the project affected persons observe the 30-meter way leave. UETCL should further ensure that any grievances arising from project affected persons are dealt with in a timely and adequate manner. Regarding cost overruns, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, together with the UTCL, streamlines and shortens the time between the design and construction phases to minimize on price fluctuations. In addition, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and the company should work closely with the procurement agency to reduce restrictions for contractors to increase competition and avoid possible ganging up for price fixing. Regarding equitable distribution of electricity, the committee recommends that government should consider prioritizing the extension of grid power to island districts, including the extension of a marine cable to Buvuma Islands, as prioritized in the NDP 2. Madam Speaker, the committee finally recommends that the resources meant for UETCL capacity assessment, project implementation and training, sector skills assessment, and sector strengthening program totaling to $7.3 million should not be approved. In addition, the physical price contingency should be reduced from 5.8% to 5% of the total loans, amount of 87.2, which is equivalent to 4.36 million, and therefore the total reduction including contingency is 8.44 from the 100 million. Only resources for construction of the transmission line infrastructure, UETCL system modernization, biodiversity offset and coordination, and supervision of social safeguards by Ministry of Energy, Mineral Development, amounting to $91.56 million, including contingency funds, be provided for this project. In other words, the committee recommended a reduction of 8.44 million from this loan. Of course, there was a lot of discussion on that one with the beneficiaries, and they still have issues. The committee recommends that the request by government to borrow SDR $100 million from the IDA of World Bank Group to finance the grid expansion and reinforcement project be amended in view of the above recommendation to $91.56 million and be approved subject to the above recommendation. I beg to report. I should also say, because some issues have been raised in the discussion, that the committee developed guidelines and distributed these guidelines to all ministries, departments, and agencies that we shall need to approve loans as a committee. And the requirements are many, but I can mention a few of them: a comprehensive sector strategic plan, counterpart funding availability, a letter of commitment from Ministry of Finance, infrastructure designs, implementation status of ongoing aid-funded projects, and others. Those are some among others. These have been distributed, and they are now standard requirement. So some of the issues being raised on the, that have been raised in the discussion, we have actually dealt with, had a long discussion of those. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the report of the committee on this loan, grid expansion, and also I beg to lay documents that the committee considered, including the signed minutes, the minister's brief on the proposal, the project appraisal documents, the loan approval guide, status of implementation of transmission line and submission projects, and sector development plan, the energy sector development plan. I beg to lay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and members of the Committee of National Economy for that great work. And I note that it has been signed by the necessary minimum. Now, the members, the areas are basically the same, and I think we have canvassed them. So I'll just allow maybe just 3 contributions. By those who did not speak in the first one, only 3. No, you contributed. Let's start with the Honorable Repair, 3 minutes. Macho, you contributed in the other one. Repair, Awol, Makmut, Ozu. Then the minister gets ready to answer to both. What's happening today?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for this elaborate report. Madam Speaker, I'm here to support the loan request by government to finance the grid expansion and enforcement project. Madam Speaker, we are also aware that a majority of our population in this country depend on very expensive energy options like kerosene, firewood, which have become so hazardous to their health. So, Madam Speaker, with the approval of this loan request, I know it will go a long way to provide for the energy and power demands of our people in terms of doing business cheaply, increase productivity, and also improving their livelihood. Madam Speaker, I also totally agree with the recommendations of the committee, most especially on equitable distribution of electricity. We have districts like Kotido that have not been prioritized at all by the Minister of Energy. For Kotido district, we are living in the third world. It is total darkness. People have not seen power. People don't know about power. And when we come to Kampala, they say, are you going to the lights? Meaning where it is connected. Therefore, with this expansion of the grid, I'm sure Kotido will also have an opportunity to benefit from the grid, because when it is connected, when power transmission reaches such areas, I know a lot will be done and will be appreciated by the people. Madam Speaker, I also had members that we really support these loan requests because it will also go a long way to cover the remaining areas of this country that will receive the electricity and be able to do business that will also engage many of our young people to produce what will really take this country to our next level of development. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Now, Makmut, Oguzu, then Awol. Makmut, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the record, is Otor Edward Makmut, MP, Agago County. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the report that was presented by the committee today. However, allow me to make or to emphasize a few points, some which have actually been stated. One is the issue of cost. In my constituency in Agago, there is an electricity line. But if you take account of how many people are benefiting from electricity in Agago, I think you really be disappointed. So I think we need to look at a way of bringing down costs so that our people can benefit from electricity. The other issue that was raised that I cannot emphasize enough is the access by schools, hospitals, among others. We have been approached, and I think we should probably look at a multi-pronged approach to the problem that we are facing today. I think we should also look at the solar issues. Most of the schools and the hospitals in our areas are actually using solars. So I think if we are borrowing all this money on behalf of our people, If we can't afford electricity, I think we should also be honest enough to look at other alternative ways of accessing electricity. Otherwise, we have these lines passing the center in a big constituency like Agago. Most of the parts have no access to electricity. And finally, I know time is of essence, Madam Speaker, is the issue of the danger, the way, I think because of the problem of compensation, you find lines passing, you imagine if there is any accident, you wonder about the right of easement at the end of the day. So I think the planning issue, as was stated, that also borders the issues of compensation, needs to be looked at critically. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Ogusu, then Awor, then Baba and Stella and Vero. I want those who didn't contribute in the other one. 3 minutes, please.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I want to commend the committee for accepting the call for certain areas to be added to national grid through borrowing. It has been a long-held aspiration of West Nile people that they must be on the national grid. Unfortunately, the president has always insisted that they do not have capacity. And from the observations of the committee, it's now clear we need access to power, and the power must be reliable. Yesterday, I just returned from the constituents, and I met officials of Wenreko. They told me Nyagake now generates about 3.5 megawatts, and the load is 3.4. That means demand is growing each day. So with extension and addition to the national grid, we will certainly get the needed power. However, I have a few concerns I wanted to raise. I have observed in Uganda we do not have a national infrastructure master plan which defines infrastructure corridors, which defines priority infrastructures, which defines areas that must be prioritized. The effect of this is some areas have perennially remained poor while others progress. In West Nile, a pole service costs more than here in Kampala. That is basically because the government has chosen to subsidize the people who use electricity in Kampala and make it very expensive for people who live in the rural areas. So how are we going to mainstream Goal 7 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which says we must have affordable access to electricity? If you choose to prioritize and make it cheap for people in certain areas to access power and make it very expensive for others to get power. So I would want the committee to clearly look at such issues and put it in their recommendations that affordability, access should be a core component of designs for these projects so that we find it easy to approve them. Lastly, I wanted to hear from the committee, given our level of indebtedness, do you find it wise that the government can borrow? And we have always had proclamations from the government that Uganda can now generate resources locally. Our tax collections have increased. Have you explored local options that you now want us to continuously borrow? And what would be the ratio of this debt to the GDP? I wanted to hear those, and whether there is actually value for money, because I didn't hear in quantifiable terms what this will translate into if we invest in these projects through borrowing. Thank you.
Nabawor, then Baba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to also thank the committee for work well done. Yesterday, at a certain time, I also tried to follow, is it on TV? There was economic summit, and at least there was comment about also power. For example, in Africa and even in Uganda. So we still have a very big problem, even when we say commercialization of agriculture, then we want to industrialize. How do we industrialize without energy? When we talk about solar energy, I don't think so that we can have these small-scale industries depending on solar energy. We need this electricity, really. But it's a big problem still in our country. Now we have prioritized some districts, like the 6 districts, and in the second proposal. But again, the accessibility by the people is a problem. One time when I was still a local councillor, I happened to visit South Africa. And in South Africa, we went to Soweto. Is it what can we say? A slum. And we found just temporary shelters. But if you enter inside, you find there cooker, you find fridges, and you find people using electricity for everything. But here in Uganda, we need to do a little more for the poor community. Those who live in those slum areas are so poor, but they I think they were supported by their government. How can we support our rural people better? And when we take services to a district, we should not just follow, the main roads, the important roads. Honorable Minister, please, tell those technical people to help us a little better, because we are not actually being helped better. And if you find right now, climate change is a reality. It's there for real. And that's why we are even getting problems with our rainfalls and the rest of it. Yet we don't have water for agriculture. So we are forever going to have problem, and desertification is soon coming if we don't prioritize this and accessibility by the rural population. You cannot just get, 7% or less than 7% of the population accessing electricity, then you say, we have supply electricity in this district. We need a lot more people to get. If there should be people who should not be able to get, should be few. But you need a lot more studies in that. The cost of electricity is just too much. I am an old MP, but I use charcoal. And for how long should we be using charcoal? I think at this point in time where we take electricity services, we need to do a little better. Honorable Minister, let the technical people help us. We are not so technical, but we want to see our people do better. And I would like to tell Honorable
Baba, then Stella, then no, Abala, no. Vichetero.
Madam Speaker, I would like to applaud the report of the committee for the excellent presentation. I have 3 points. One, I would like to thank the government for this loan request for power grid extension, especially in northern Uganda. Particularly to my region in West Nile. Honorable Guzu talked of Nyagak producing 3.3 megawatts. That is terribly inadequate. Actually, right now, the people are using this power for spreading their sleeping bags and mattresses and cooking beans, not beans, but lighting for discos, and nothing serious like industrial development. Roofings here uses 40 megawatts of power alone. How can the region, northern Uganda, attract big industries when you have 3 megawatts, 4 megawatts. It's a joke. So I really want to applaud government on this new power grid extension of 132 kVA to the region and other parts of Uganda. 2, I also like to applaud the idea of regional intergrid connections. In the case of Uganda, the region we should eye most is Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Why? Because when they wake up, they are going to develop the biggest capacity of hydropower generation in the whole world, more than 60 megawatts of power generation. If we now extend our grid to those regions, by the time DRC will be ready, we shall be able to tap into that huge power and thereby reducing costs. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the issue of external consultancy, the issue of using foreign consultants to undertake such a major works. At the moment, in this country, electricity generation is one of the major priority areas of expansion. But we don't see commensurate development of capacity of our people to manage this huge enterprise. So I have been in government, I'm still in government, I'm a great supporter of government. Let's prioritize skills development in the energy sector because it's one of our biggest development sector for which we need to manage it ourselves. I thank you.
Before Stella comes, honourable members, in the 9th Parliament, we had a very stormy debate on the cost of capacity building, and were assured by the government that they needed that money to train our engineers. So I shall want to know, how many have they trained? Because it was we had refused, and they said no, we want to train. So we said, if you are going to train, okay, building capacity. I shall want to know. Stella?
Thank
on training.
Just related to that, which I
Okay,
think,
just before Stella comes.
I think
Institutional memory.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. There were 2 issues, and I was trying to catch your eye on this. One is capacity building, institutional support. In every project, they are putting capacity building, consultancy, institutional support. Really, that is not acceptable. The ministry must build its capacity so that we save on this one. The second area which we also queried strongly was the issue of contingency. And you can see, chair of the committee, a big disparity. In the first project, contingency was 15%. 15% of contingency, excluding compensation. Now this one, contingency is 5 point something. There is no standard. We don't understand what is going on. Why is it in a project? Government of Uganda, you put contingency 15%, another one you put 0. On the donor, you put 10%, another one you put 5%. I think these are 2 areas, Madam Speaker, which I thought we should carry from what we agreed on in the 9th Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you for the institutional memory. On Stella, then Honorable Chetero, then we'll close with Cheborion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So I should get ready?
Purpose, my name is Akelo Sylvia, not Stella. I want to add my voice by saying the issue of rural electrification is good. But when you go up country, there is serious load shedding. Power can be off even for 2 weeks when you are not even imagining there is electricity in that area. So as you think about loan, you should also think about making power available. If power disappears for 2 weeks, do you expect yourself to be having electricity in such area? Then secondly is the issue of these transformers. People put small transformers in town that cannot even operate the small industries that we have in the small districts around. So if this loan is to consider serious electrification, then there must be big transformers that can operate bigger industries other than the small ones that can work for a short time and it is no more. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the issue of compensation. The rural electrification passed in various people's lands and homes. There were others that they said, like in my constituency, they would offer to give them 200,000. But of course, we have our brothers, lawyers out there. They said, no, this money is very small. If they are paying you that, you come to me, I take these people to court. Government was taken to court by some few people in Lira district. They were paid good money, almost 200,000. Now the lawyers are saying, what are you waiting? Just bring your names and then we make sure we follow up and we get a lot of money. Because instead of getting 200,000, you are going to get 50 million. So as we think of advancing, can we see a way of paying those people before we wait for loan things? Thank you.
Honorable Vichetero, then Cheborion. I said those who contributed in the other debate will not. Honorable Vichetero.
Thank you very much,
then close with your
Right
podium.
Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the loan request and support the loan for the rural electrification. I also want to thank the Committee on National Economy for a very comprehensive report. My first point has already been taken by the immediate past speaker on the availability and the provision of electricity in the rural areas. Instead of this load shedding and the lack of provision, I mean, you have the power, it is like a white elephant, but there is really no electricity. So we would really want the ministry concerned, please don't raise the appetite of our people, particularly in trading centers. They would start a factory and then they can't even work on the factories. The other one is to the engineers, particularly the ministry. In Soroti area and Mbale, but eastern Uganda, and that is where Kabaramaido County is affected, you find that the lines are two. But if you are on any of those lines, it's like we are given a fake deal. Yeah, so you are not support.
Honorable is just giving you support for the argument.
Yes, this issue of identity, I mean, two lines serving the same purpose and they just click one to deny you the other one. I had the same experience in Gulu. We were with the World Bank in Gulu and we were waiting for electricity to do a very important project for the northern Uganda, and there was no power. When we pressed harder with our power, that now we are Ugandans and this, we must get this, we were told it is coming from Jinja, but then it will divert and go to Soroti, and then your line does not pass Mbale, and the Soroti line is dead. Right Honorable Speaker, this is some of these things. We don't want to contribute and support loans that have no meaningful effect to us. But definitely we are I support this and I hope we get and borrow. Yes, please, thank you.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the floor bearer for giving way. The other information that I wanted to give is this. Most of our people have these power lines pass just near their homes, but they never benefit at all. We could really, in our policy, put it that as long as a pole for power service has stepped on somebody's garden, let that person benefit in a way. It would be such a good thing. Two, the other information is that most of our people in the villages have these poles at their homes, but the connection is not there. Let us have a deliberate effort to have these lines connected to those people who cannot read. The poor of the poorest. That is the information that I wanted to grant to you. The people are not connected. They are not. The poor people. That is the information. Thank you. Granted. Further information.
In conclusion, Madam.
Information to who?
Oh, information again?
No, it's not on the floor. It's not on the floor. Please conclude, Honorable Chetero.
In conclusion, I want to thank him for the more information he gave. Mine is really an honest and holistic appeal that when we borrow this money in the names of our people, let us give them the service that they deserve. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Let's go to survey, Honorable Cheborion. Then I go to Okot and close with Kumama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Asoekwa Kenneth Cheborion. I represent the people of Tingai County, Kapchorwa. I support the committee that we borrow this money. However, Madam Speaker, government injects a lot of money on these projects, and it is borrowed money with the interest. However, my challenge is this, Madam Speaker, that there are people who collect this money or who run these projects. Like, for example, the Wanarego. I want to ask, who is Wanarego and who is Yaka? Because these are the people who are in charge of collecting the tariffs. And where does the money go? How does the government benefit from this after the collection of the money? And how sure are we that there is no corruption in between? Since we are injecting a lot of money, these are billions of money. And we should also see how are we going to benefit at the end of it all. Madam Speaker, I beg to request the House that we should investigate thoroughly how Yaka is working. And then I could also suggest that there are regulatory authorities who could help us collect this money or revenues to the government. We could adapt, for example, how URA collects the money, and then this money could go to the pool. How we pay our money, like, for example, in lands, how government collects that money, and that money goes to the pool. How Uganda migrations collect the money, and that money goes to the pool. So if we use such a criteria, it could help us get all this money, and then we could utilize it to benefit our people, other than having an investor whom we don't know how he's working, and all the resources is repatriated back to other countries, and we are here fighting, looking for a loan to finance a project, which at the end of it all is not going to benefit the country. Really, we need to think about such, and then we see how our people can benefit from that. Thank you.
No, Okot, then Kumama, then the Minister. After Okot, Kumama, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm sure these loans are being borrowed in the best interests of this country, and I thank the committee for diligently looking at
But for the Hansard, I think you keep on
okay.
Your name and constituency for the Hansard.
Yes, my name is Okot Peter. I represent Tochi County in Omoro District. As I said, I believe these loans is being borrowed in the best interests of this country, and the committee did a good job in ensuring that they really scrutinize it. Looking at the first loan, which was clearly stated that is to work on rural electrification in those 6 districts. In the second loan, the element is to increase the grid, to increase on the efficiency and the transmission of electricity. What I don't see is that I think there's a lot of assumption that has been taken that rural electrification is already in those areas. But the truth of the matter on the ground, that is not the case. So I wonder how the local persons in whose interest this loan is being borrowed so that electricity is accessed by the common man. These lines will just pass. So I would imagine that we should also take into consideration that the rural electrification is increased in those areas so that the people benefit. Otherwise, this line will just pass and people will just be looking at it without utilizing. Secondly, it is also indicated that this is being done in preparation once Karuma is completed and Isimba is completed. But we also know that Karuma might be completed in how many years? In 2, 3, 4 years from now. So why now? While we wait for that, interest will be accrued in some of these loans, and at the end of it all, the government shall have what? Shall have accumulated a lot of debt. Thank you.
Now, Kumama, then the minister.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm George Wilson Nsamba Kumama, Member of Parliament, Bale Constituency. I stand here to second the motion for borrowing these funds for rural electrification and also for the grid extension. But I have just two simple questions. Bale, where I represent, I think we have 3% of electricity in that constituency. 3%. The rest of the rural coverage has no power. So I'm asking, if this loan is approved, when is Bale going to get electricity? Secondly, I also want to know if these loans are approved, like we are going to approve them, how much of this country will be covered by this loan, or by electricity using this loan? Thank you.
Minister, if you could use 10 minutes for both.
Right Honorable Speaker, dear colleagues, I would like to thank the honorable members for their brilliant contributions and support to these loans. They say, if there is no power, you cannot develop. So therefore, it is prudent that we give support to these essential loans for energy in the country. Members have been talking about high tariffs. Yes, this is a painstaking issue. Government is working very hard, even to try to remodel the financing even of already existing projects like Bujagali, and also introduce other energy mix like the hydropower stations in Karuma, the Isimba, and smaller ones spread in the country. All are aimed at bringing down the tariffs so that we become generally competitive with our neighbors. With industrial parks, of course, these are the targets for power. Where they are not, power will be connected. Madam Speaker, compensation has become a very touchy issue. Yes, the law says we must compensate adequately, fairly, and on time. But we must be guided by some law in order to compute the values. And we use the government valuer. But in some circumstances, Right Honorable Speaker, the people just refuse and say, I want you to pay me what I want. Now, who is to guide government payments? There must be an institution. This one accepts, the next one refuses. There must be a way to deal with those also, so that the country is developed. Otherwise, somebody would just be adamant and say, we are not getting the money. For Karamoja, when we took power there, they were disturbing us, power. When the power went, we said, do you want the power? Yes. Okay, the power is there. If you want to prevent it, it will delay. And we took it that it benefits us. But there are colleagues who say, if the power is coming, the moment the pole steps on your garden, then you must do this. You must be talking to our people. My colleague was saying so, and I told him, I think it's good, but we must be responsible ourselves. Silo, the meters, supply of prepaid meters. This one shall talk to Meme, because they must supply them. You see, the overall aim of power, we say we aim at districts, we aim at health centers, schools, and any income-generating schemes like factories. That is the intention. So where these have not reached, and their distribution lines, we shall endeavor to reach those areas and connect. This is what we are doing. Arua. In order to reduce the tariffs in Arua, it is this loan we have asked, because we are going to connect it to the grid, so that instead of 3.5, which we have talked about, we go to the main grid, and we will benefit the low costs which come along with the main grid. The members say, well, what do we do with connections? What government is doing, if the line passes, for a number of months you have not put, there is a scheme to provide you with power, with connections. So long as you have already, you have already electrified, put conduits in your house. We don't come inside, but to bring the pole near, that is the intention now, so that everybody gets power. To say power is all passing the swamp, where else should it pass in order to go to the other side? It must pass over the swamp, and there is nothing to do about it. I am sure my friend just wanted me to laugh. The other one is the poles falling and rotting. The intention now with the new lines is we are trying to get concrete poles. They are expensive, all right, but in the long run, they tend to be cheaper, because instead of these ones which break every season, and you have one pole for 15 or 20 years, I think it will, in the long run, become very cheap. I think the whole thing was very good. I think there is something I want to say. I want to appeal to you members about the second loan. This second loan, which we have asked, this,
no, we are winding up. No, we are winding
this
up.
one going to Arua and the northern Uganda. We sat with the funders. The government sat, we discussed so seriously about scrutinizing how do we implement this in the wake of so many loans which have not been implemented. We said, okay, with them, our money is here, we want you to implement. That's why we are talking about the unit specific to the project. We get officers, we get them on contract. Their job is to make sure the project is implemented on time. Then that's why we talk about also capacity building. Some elements will go to train our own people, so that when the rest go, the project is over, we are able to do our own jobs. This loan is well thought. I appeal to the members and to the committee that please accept the way we have formulated this loan. Otherwise, we shall not be able to implement. Even the current staff we have got so many loans and we want to implement all of them. They are overstretched. For this one, allow us to get these people on the ground so that we don't talk about, low absorption and so on. So I appeal to you, if you didn't exploit that issue yourself, yes, we accepted the way we have requested for the good of our people. I know some people are saying, if the power comes, infrastructure comes, what do you get? First of all, when you have to develop, you have to, first of all, handle what they say, social capital overheads, which will trigger development of other sectors. And this is exactly what we are doing in order to develop our country. So I request, honorable members, approve this loan without any amendment of any form, because it will not move on its own. I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. Honourable members, I put the question on the first loan, that this House do approve the loan request in respect of the 33 kV, 11 kV distribution project for Kiliandongo, Kivale, Nebi, Bushenyi, Kasese, and Rukunjiri. Those in favor say aye, the contrary no. Please have it. Honourable members, in respect to the second one, the committee recommended that we reduce by 8.44 million. So I put the question that this House do approve the, now it became 9 point, I think let me state the figure which is in the report. It became 91.8 91. No, this is Kiriandongo. No, we don't do that. Our committee has discussed, and that's their recommendation. Honourable members, the question is that this House do approve the recommendation of the committee that the sum be reduced to millions, US dollars 91.56 million, as proposed by the committee. Those in favor say, the contrary no. Ayes have it. Ayes have it. So I put the question that the House do adopt the report. Those in favor say, the contrary no. Ayes have it. Okay, honourable members, thank you very much for the work. House adjourned to tomorrow at 2 p.m. Rukunjiri, you are happy?
Honourable Minister.